and welcome to episode 116 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills, and I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We are using the magazine Zap 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zap 64 itself. This week, we start our look at March 1989 and the first batch of games reviewed in issue 47 of Zap 64, along with what was also going on in the UK singles chart that month. Graham, do we need to beware the Ides of March, or are there bountiful offerings that await us?
In this overly expensive collection of delivered seasoned vegetables in a box of an episode, we grab our pointy ears, belt and cape and go for a comic panel-based stroll around Gotham City looking for stuff in the fancy-looking Batman, the Caped Crusader, finally live out the dream and find out what would happen if a 7-foot professional basketball player goes head to beak with a giant pigeon. Maybe. In one-on-one Jordan versus Bird, explore the side-splitting political satire and lampooning of an off-the-wall UK TV show by making a fighting game. In Spitting Image, and we casually throw £10 down the drain for some mindless medium-res Space Invader-inspired nonsense with Better Dead than Alien. Did your specially delivered and hand-picked box of vegetables go rotten in less than 18 hours? Because mine bloody well did. We also pop into the green lizard-like world of the run and gun for some alien-inspired shoot and jump in the excellent Zamzara, get the real feeling of being on a TV sports quiz, including the total lack of excitement, the dead inside enthusiasm, and the little to no interest with a question of sport, explore the wacky world of the lion tamer, stunt horse rider, trapeze artist, or tightrope walker in the way only a fruitless event sim can achieve in the who the hell wanted it world of Circus Games, push our throttles beyond max, engage jet engines, and fly like crazy around the skies like a popped rocket balloon in the ride-on arcade Monster Smash C64 conversion of Afterburner, before finally trolling the old arcade Obscura once again and popping into the no one's heard of it zone to dig up something from Atari's early 80s catalogue in the C64 conversion of Peter Packrat. The budget games are beating the crap out of the full-price games. So many games, so expensive, so many terrible too. 1989, what are you playing at?
Well, do you know what? That's a question we're going to answer, isn't it? In the spirit of this podcast, that's what we do.
It is.
That's what we do.
It is. It's certainly something that we will look at covering over the next 4 episodes, because March is a 4-episode month. There's a lot of games.
That's fair. That's fair. There is a lot.
A lot of games. 37 in total for March.
Oh gosh, that's quite a lot.
It is. It is the. I would say it is the last of the. The last of the big spenders.
The megas.
It is the last of the. It is really. I mean, from here on out, the number of games does sort of drop considerably. But for some reason, it's obviously the hangover from Christmas. It takes some time to actually get the games, review them, and put them in. So that's why I think that's always why March is quite big each year. So they've obviously done that. But anyway, yes, March is upon us. So let us get into it. But before we do get into any games, Graham, we must look at the cover. We must review the cover.
Yeah, about that. It's not...
Do you not like it?
It's not the best. I don't know. My feeling is that perhaps that was just drawn quite quickly.
They've gone for the magazine's got a new look, hasn't it? So there's been a redesign inside. I have a feeling that they were probably up against time with everything that was going on and just said, what games we got? Zack McCracken, Rocket Ranger, and Leadstorm. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not... A man wielding a baguette in anything is good.
Especially, Zack McCracken. One could take it sort of thing, and the sort of randomness of the game, Zack McCracken, and the sort of craziness of the cover do kind of tie in a little bit, maybe if you want to be, you want to be on the sort of, if you want to look on that. But I'm not a big fan of the googly-eyed brush.
No, I don't know. I'm just, it always makes me a little bit uneasy when I see swastikas on anything, even in jest.
Yeah, I mean, it's a product from 1989, and and Rocket Ranger does save the world from Nazi domination.
Yeah. I get it. I mean, because he's flying through it, isn't he? So
he's burning it. Yeah, so I take that's
I get
fine.
it, but it's just it's a little bit uneasy. It's not a happy paradigm to we don't not and that sort of thing. Yeah, but it's all they've thrown quite a few of the games into that cover, and I suppose in the spirit of that, it's all right. He doesn't look anything like Zack McCracken, as far as I'm aware. Not well. not really. But I suppose he could do. It's an interpretation, isn't it? It's an interpretation. I think Led Storm's getting a little bit of the bum's rush there compared to the screen time of all the rest of them. But what the hey?
Well, what are you going to do from Led Storm apart from the car?
Yeah, that could have been the whole thing, though. I suppose that the Wet Clemens cover was kind of car racing, wasn't it? I suppose they can't, do too many of the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder how much they regretted that when Wet Clemens actually turned up, but hey-ho.
Yeah, I think it's just, I don't know. It's like I said, there's parts of it that are okay. The styling of it's okay. Again, we've gone crazy typography with loads and loads and loads of, just loads of text everywhere. And it is a very busy cover. It's very hard on the eye, that cover.
Yeah.
And nothing shouts, because it says there, Zap McCracken and Mindbenders, do games come any sillier than this? But it doesn't, the cover doesn't come across as silly. It just comes as cluttered and like there's too much to review. It's too much. It looks busy, and that gives me the idea that it's probably too much going on in there.
Yeah, quite possibly.
But at least you could have won a remote control buggy, which is always nice.
You could, and a complete aquarium. Exactly,
Or is that a complete aquarium? Who knows what that really means?
Nudge.
Nudge, nudge.
And loads of
fishy.
Loads of hotline prizes.
Yeah, they couldn't be bothered to name them.
No, just you can get loads. There's loads. You can have loads. But 60 games reviewed because there's a lot of Amiga games. We are obviously 62 Amiga, and there's lots of Amiga games, but 37, 64 ones. Right, there we go.
I need to go out there.
I don't think there's much more to say. It's so hot you could fry bacon on it. I'm not a big fan of those kind of taglines.
No, but they see they've been up in the game with those over the past few issues of this. So, no, I think, it's not their finest moment, but I get what they were trying to do. Just make it look really busy and cram stuff in. Fair enough.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a rush job at the end. I mean, I do like the Rocket Ranger guys. It's all very well drawn as ever by Mr. Frey. You can't knock it.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, there's good movement in there. As always, good movement, good angles. By the way, I've just noticed what's Lloyd Mangram unveiled? What was the Lloyd Mangram? I don't remember that. Well,
Lloyd Mangram was the person in Zap who always answered the letters.
Oh, okay.
But he doesn't exist because it's Lloyd Anagram.
Yeah, I get that. I just wondered what it was.
So he never existed, as far as I'm aware. So he was never a real person.
So that was what was unveiled, then maybe.
Maybe I don't know. I didn't, possibly.
Okay,
it is what it is. But yeah, so there's a bit of a redesign inside. It's kind of a bit more. I'm not quite. I don't know. I don't like the new sort of styling for the names of the games. They don't stand out as much as they used to.
No, and they've gone mad on the sort of little images of them looking silly, haven't they? So there's loads of that in it.
Yeah, there's loads of drawing stuff to knock the. Yeah,
okay. It is what it is, I suppose.
It is what it is. Yeah, there we go. That's the new issue. Well, new issue. I'll say March 1989. New for us. Right, should we get into some games? Got 9 to get through.
That's the plan.
Let's get into the first of those 9 games for this week. And the first one, well, it's Batman. Batman, eh? Batman. Yeah, this is it's not his first computer game. Do you know, I found that quite odd. It's not his first computer game, it's his second. This is only the second game that I could find. Moby Games only lists one before this. That's that Spectrum Amstrad. I think that's quite weird considering video games been around since about 72 and Batman was quite a thing. So I thought Batman would have been in more games, but no. And this is the first time he's appeared on the C64 in what I'm going to dub the year of the Batman. Because there's not just one game, there's another game. There's the game of the movie coming along, and there's the movie itself, all coming in 1989. So the big rebirth. And I think, this is the reinvention of Batman starts here, doesn't it, really? 1989 to what sort of... It takes a bit of a nosedive when Joel Schumacher gets his hands on it, but...
just a bit.
But yeah. So there you go. Do I need to go into who Batman was? Probably not. But
no.
I'll give a bit of history to the Batman itself, the comics. The character debuted in issue 27 of Detective Comics. Don't know if you knew that. In 1939. It's created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. Bill Finger sounds like a bad guy in Batman.
Probably was.
Yeah, probably was. Batman is the crime-fighting alter ego of stylist billionaire Bruce Wayne. Since his creation, obviously, there have been a whole host of approaches to the character, the camp TV shows of the 60s, the dark gothic tones of Burton's films, the neon nightmares of the Schumacher films, so on and so on. Even more so in the world of comics, titles like The Killing Joke, Dark Knight Returns, Nightfall, Arkham Asylum, to name just a few. It's, Batman has returned time and time again and has stayed a constant, really, since his creation, getting on for nearly 100 years ago now. There are multiple Batmans all over the place in the DC multiverse and that kind of thing, and there are loads of seminal characters that have spawned from the stories. And we even had recently the sort of Arkham trilogy of video games, which had got loads of praise, loved their way, for the way it incorporated both sides of the Batman character in his use of fighting. And that having been the world's greatest detective. It was kind of that Arkham game is one of the games I think that really sort of introduced that stealth vision, detective vision that we see in loads of games now. to sort of click a button and highlight the sort of thing, and so you highlight these sort of interesting bits. That sort of Batman vision, whatever they called it, detective vision, I think was one of the sort of first times it was really used. And to be fair, that sort of split character is kind of what this game aims to do it, albeit, with more modest 8-bit C64 means. This is not like an Xbox game, Xbox 360 game or anything. So this was released by Ocean. It was developed by Special Effects, with coding duties by Robert W. not Zach Townsend as listed on Lemon 64. It's Robert Tinman did this. It's got graphics by Karen Davies, game design by Jonathan M. Smith, and music by Fred Gray. Okay, so this is quite an interesting release, actually. You don't just get one game here, but two. There's actually two games in this. Now, we've sort of, two games, but we'll come to whether this works a bit later. Although, because both of them do follow the same overall presentation and gameplay, but the maps in both of them and the objectives are different. The two games focus themselves on pitting Batman against two of his most iconic foes, the Penguin and the Joker. Each game can be loaded separately, and whilst the game loads, we do get a rather nice loading screen of the Batman socking it to the Penguin, whilst a load of Joker cards laugh on in the background. It's a basic facsimile. It's the cover to the game, and it's been done pretty well, I think. It's a really nice loading screen, this. Very much captures the spirit of the characters. The twin stories that you may play through are as follows, and this is straight from the instructions. The Penguin plot is called A Bird in the Hand. The Penguin, having been released from jail, decides to set up an umbrella production factory near his Gotham City mansion. But, of course, old habits die hard, and this is but a cover-up for his ingenious plan to take over the world using an army of robotic penguins. As Batman, can you close down the hidden master control computer and stop this evil conspiracy? It's not a conspiracy. It's just Penguin's plan.
Yeah, his evil deed.
It's not a conspiracy. Plan, yeah. The Joker plot is called A Fate Worse Than Death, and that's Fete. Robin has mysteriously disappeared. The only clue found is a single playing card. The sign of the infamous Joker, Batman's archenemy, has returned. On close examination, the Bat computer reveals a secret message hidden on the flip side of the card. Robin heads for a fate worse than death. The fuse is lit. So don't waste time. Follow your nose and remember, there's no place like home. Boom, boom. Can you uncover the mystery, save Robin, and defeat the Joker? Time is running out. So there we go. That's our two plots to play through. It's up to you which one you take on. Both play out very similarly, though. So, probably best to play the Penguin one first. It kind of does drop you in a little bit gentler, I think. When the game loads, we're straight into the action. There's no menu or title screen here. We're just straight in. Batman drops straight down the Batpole into the Batcave, and we're off. That's it. You're just in it. Off you go. So the game itself is displayed in a series of windowed panels that kind of iris in and out as you move from screen to screen. It's a flick screen game, but instead of it just flicking to the next one, the next screen you go onto will kind of iris out and you're into that next one. It's kind of layered on top of the previous window, which turns a deep blue in the background. And as you move from room to room, these sort of layers get more and more, and some of them fade out. And it's a nice effect. It's a really good effect. It reminded me very much of the way you move from window to window in Frankie Goes to Hollywood, which was a game that Karen Davies, who did the graphics, also worked on. So I think there's some link in there. And this game did, in some instances, remind me a bit of Frank Goes to Hollywood in the way it kind of played and walked and around and stuff. There's something, I think it's in the visuals a bit. When you start the game, either one, so you're in the safety of the Batcave. There's nothing here. There's nothing that's going to trouble you here. And it's here that you're introduced to the game's mechanics. Batman has a number of moves up his cowled sleeves. Without the fire button pressed, you can move left or right. You can go up or down through open doors, climb to the right or left up available climbing parts of the level, when you're outside, and you do that with the top diagonals, or you can crouch left or right with the down diagonals. With the fire button pressed, you can attack in the direction you are facing, with the top diagonal doing a high kick. If you point towards it left or right, then you do a punch, and the down diagonal does a low kick. If you pull down and press fire, that picks up an object if you are standing over one, and the objects in this are just marked like they're like little bat signs in the environment. And so when you walk over one, you pull down, press fire, and you can pick that up. And as soon as you do that, or if you don't have one of them, it brings up your utility belt if you are not. Because one thing you will notice in the main game is that there's no UI. There's nothing. All there is on screen is the environment that you're in. This is the panel showing the area, the screen, the sort of whatever it is you're in. There's no UI whatsoever. That's all here on the utility belt screen. So you pull down, press fire, it brings this secondary screen up. So from here, you can see what objects you've picked up, and they're sort of you can carry 12 objects at any one time. The 6 spaces on either side of the screen. And each time you pick something up, one of those spaces will fill up with whatever it is you've picked up. So it might be a hand grenade, it can be the batarang, it might be a funny, I think it's the funny nose, or the suit, or the trainers and things like that. Anything that you pick up will go in one of those slots. You can only carry 12 things. You will also see the percentage of the game you've completed at the top. Every time you do something, you complete a little task, that goes up. You can turn the in-game music off. There's a little icon to do that. All this is icon driven. Although I did that, I turned the music off and I couldn't get it to come back on again. So it was just silent. So I just reloaded it. So I don't know if it was a bit broken, that. But I couldn't get it to come back on. Under that, you've got icons to let you, 3 icons. One lets you drop something. So if if you're picking something up and you're already full of stuff, like you might have some food, like a banana, and you don't need it, you can put that down and then you can pick up the item that you need. You can return to the game, or you can use something. And then under that is the quit game option. Then at the bottom of the utility belt screen, there's the various bars which represent Batman's strength, his heart, his carry lift ability, and finally is his overall health. Now, if I'm perfectly honest, I don't really know how these work because they're not really explained in the instructions very well, if at all. So there's these 4 bars that do stuff. They go down and they go back up if you eat things. I don't know. All I know is that I think is if your overall health gets down to 0, it's game over. That's it. Finally, if you're playing the second game, so if you're playing the Joker game, there's a series of timers along the bottom of the screen that represent the time left before the bomb strapped to Robin goes off. So you obviously need to get to Robin before they do that. Otherwise, boom goes Robin, I guess. Essentially, what we have here is a flick screen arcade adventure. As Batman, you must navigate the various screens, find the objects, and work out where they are to be used in order to progress and foil the plans of the Penguin and the Joker. And to be fair, there are both some good parts of this game and some not so good ones. I think on the good side of the visuals, which I thought were pretty excellent. I really like the look of this. Batman and the various goons and enemies are well drawn and animated, and the backgrounds are very well realised with good use of colour and shading. It's not high res, but there's just a good style to this. Karen Davis, she's done a really good job with the visuals here, I thought, because it has a feel of the Batman comics. The iris in and out feels like panels in a comic, and there's a really nice style to this. I liked Batman himself. He's a bit chunky. But, it's cool. It's kind of like Dark Knight Returns kind of Batman's sort of era. So I was into it. I thought it looked good. And I thought all the animations, Batman's kicks were all well done. The goons kind of crumple up when you throw a batarang at them or they shoot you. There's little sort of toy things are all running about and they're all well animated and it's nice. The backgrounds look good as well. I was quite into this. I thought it looked cool. On top of this, the game runs at a decent pace. You don't run as Batman, but the walking is brisk and the responses to your joystick inputs are fast enough to allow you to do what you want. So no problems there either. The objects you pick up are well drawn and easy to make out what they are. Obviously, they're just an icon thingy, but when you're playing it, but when you get them, when you see what they are, they're actually quite nicely drawn in the utility belt screen. As you progress from screen to screen, I also like the fact that there's a puzzle to solve on that screen. You usually get a little prompt at the top of the window with a handy word highlighted. For example, one door has something about don't pass the door with the word pass in bold, giving you the pointer that you're going to need a pass to get through it, not just a key. Another screen has the words the number 4, broken machines on it. And you find some tools on that screen. Now, right at the beginning of the game, you've got to fix the Bat computer. So 4 broken machines, the tools, all right, these tools will fix the Bat computer. And so that's quite nice. That's quite a little bit of handy player affordance. And I kind of, that's why I said the Penguin game eases you in a little better to sort of, because it says at the very beginning, it says, insert the Bat disk. You find that the computer's broken. Right, I need to fix it. Find them. And this is all right. These items are all very close to you at the beginning. So it's easy enough to sort of get a handle on how these kind of puzzles and these kind of clues work together. I thought that was quite good. Because using objects is easy enough as well. You just go into the belt screen, you click on the object, and then you click on the use icon. And if it works, you kind of get this nice indication with a big bat symbol going in and out like you do if you pick something up. And if it doesn't, you get this clunking sound telling you, no, you can't do that. It's all good. It's fine. The music from Fred Gray is also pretty good. It's not the same, but I got a little bit of a Mission AD vibe from it. Doesn't sound the same. There's just a way that it kind of sort of burbles along in the background and didn't annoy you. So I like that. I thought it was quite all right. And every now and again, it kind of breaks into the iconic Batman theme, and that was cool. So I thought it fit the game pretty well. But it's not all good. Once you're at the Batcave and you're onto the streets trying to get into Penguin's factory, you will very soon be beset by a constant stream of enemies. We've moaned about these before, and unfortunately, they're back again in this game. There are some that fly, some throw knives, some shoot, and your progress is constantly hampered by these things. One tip I will give is you'll get the Batarang near the beginning, equip it, as you can then throw this instead of punch and hit enemies across the screen to temporarily incapacitate them. Time to move along or do stuff. So there is stuff you can do to mitigate that. When flying enemies fly low enough, you can lob the batarang at them as well. But it's a painful annoyance, and I don't like it. You can fool the enemies by wearing the comedy nose, which turns you into a pink Batman. You're all pink. But this only lasts a short time. When you're wearing that and you're all pink, the enemies won't do anything. They'll just ignore you. But it only lasts a short time, so you have to pick, when's the best time to wear this. You can also use the trainees, which are a pair of trainers, and they allow you to move at double speed. Again, limited time only. Beyond this, the game constantly sees your various energies going down all the time, and should your overall health run out, it's game over for you. Now, as these bars are on the utility belt screen, it's hard to keep a track on them at a time. Maybe your health, the windows that sort of irising out don't take up the full screen, so maybe your health could have been on the main screen to help you keep an eye on it a little easier. I don't know. I mean, I would have liked that, but it's a pain. You do find sweets and things to eat to regain your strength, but the constant plague of enemies and the fact that you're constantly losing all your health is just, it's a touch unfair in my book. Just one or the other, not both. And better still, neither. We've said this about constantly roaming enemies. So before, for all its great looks and good sounds and good ideas, the constant enemies date this game badly. They're like an idea from a previous time. This could have taken something from what we saw in Usagi Yojimbo or even Fist 2 and had enemies place through the levels, offering challenges to be overcome rather than the constant barrage of them. I get that with the backtracking, there's a little bit of Metroidvania here. You're moving about, going through room to room. But the problem the thing with that is that Metroidvania enemies, like in Metroid or Castlevania, when you kill them, they drop health pickups, they drop, ammo pickups. So you're being beset, but they're constantly giving you health. So you constantly have something to do, but you're constantly getting rewarded for it. So it's not a pain in the ass. This, you're constantly bothered, and your health's always going down. And that's an annoyance. So you need better offensive capabilities to deal with the constant barrage of goons. Like there's ones that keep shooting you or they keep throwing knives, and there's the little creatures where you can't bend down and throw your gun, or at least I couldn't. And they're constantly sort of bothering you at ankle height, and there's nothing you can do about them, which is really, really annoying. So it's a real bit of a shame that, because as games go, there are some really nice elements to this, but it is beholden to that old school design mentality that we've just moaned about and spoken about before. I don't know. As an attempt at a 2D Batman game, this has some really solid elements to it. I really like the way it looks, I like the way it sounds, and I like the idea that you're not just fighting and stuff, you're trying to solve puzzles and you're being a bit of a detective and working stuff out and being that Batman. And, and it got 92%. At the time, I can see why. They're probably not as bothered by those things as we are. It looks and feels very good. Thematically, they've done a good job of recreating the Batman comics, and you are getting two pretty decent games for the price of one here. The Joker, the Penguin one sees you infiltrating his factory and trying to shut it down. The Joker one sees you going through the sewers, and then you're into a sort of like a circus or a fete or a carnival, and you're going through them. So there's two, although they play similarly, there's two different areas to explore and two different things to do and things like that. So there's quite, good value for money here if you like that sort of central mechanic of how this plays. So, it's just I just felt it's even more annoying that those are somewhat lost in the constant wave of enemies and depleting health. Don't do depleting health. We moaned about this in, the Magic Knight games. It's a stupid mechanic. Batman doesn't go around losing health. No one does.
No, it's stupid.
I don't understand the point behind it. I just don't understand it. And I think you could have done the constant enemies and dropped the depleting health, and it would have still been a challenge. It would have still been tough. But I don't know. There's a lot to like here, but some bad design decisions do let it down somewhat. At least that's what I thought. But what about you?
Oh, Batman. No, and all that. Very nice presentation on this. It's an FX, is it, a game? Special effects, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've got a knack for this kind of nice look to things. The Firefly was quite good, that was by them. And they've got a good styling, and this is particularly good for that. So it's got all the presentation, and the sprites are very nice. The graphics look very nice. The way it does the panels is very clever. That's all good stuff to like.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a Batman comic game, and there's nothing wrong with that. We know that there's a whole slew of Batman variations coming. This is, adhering to that kind of panel-based comic. It looks the part, strong graphic design in there, all good. And so I've got no problem with that. It does look and feel like it's sat exactly where you would expect it to be. The music I found was a tad shrill. I know it's kind of Fred Gray style, but I don't think it suited this game at all. It's kind of a trill, sort of high-pitched version of the Batman theme that's kind of not quite right either. It's all right, in the sense it burbles in the background, but doesn't drive anything along. And I'll come back to why that's part of a bigger problem. The game itself So it's not a bad idea to make a puzzle game out of the sort of Batman thing. Batman, obviously, in the context of the comic, does a lot of going to the Batcave and analysing stuff and sort of talking things through and things like that. It does feel a bit like a solo player, Batman, in this, but Batman obviously has a few other people around him and stuff in the comic. But I think for me, I don't generally like that kind of game with this kind of navigation. But that said, I persevered. You're getting 2 games for your money, really, here. But, you're just getting Batman versus the Joker, Batman versus Penguin. And that's not bad. It's two games. They're both very hard, actually. Quite hard to do. And not just in terms of the constant attacking from the enemies once you're outside of the Bat Cave or whatever you call it. But the problem I had with it in that sense was that the mapping of this game is quite obtuse. You're going backwards and forwards a lot in this. The further you get into it, especially in the Joker variation, there's a lot of backward and forth. Now, I don't tend to go for games that are a bit like that because unless you've got a good variation of background, and this doesn't necessarily, it starts to feel very samey, like you're just wondering. Now, this breaks it up into little panels, so it's not as bad. Certainly not as bad as something like some of the other games we've seen where you have this kind of map view where going in and out of things is represented by a little door space at the bottom and a door at the top. All right, that's how you're navigating it. At least this kind of makes contextual sense. And none of the screens are so big that you're walking across them for ages. You're just walking across mini panels of a comic. That's all good. That's good styling. That's the way they've managed it. That's good. But you still have to do it. That ain't so good. So the 2 things I would expect from a Batman game, for me, would be that you would feel a little bit more menace from the sort of main villain, which you don't really get in this at all. And that, well, actually 3 things maybe, that you'd feel the story is compelling enough in that you've got to figure stuff out. Batman does that a lot, okay. But the fighting needs to be better for Batman games, because Batman's essentially, sock, thwack, pang, boing, and all of those things. So Batman is about the fighting. He isn't a superhero, but he's not super. He's just a guy who's rich enough to buy really expensive gadgets and a suit. So he is just old school duking things out. And there needs to be a lot of that in a Batman game for me, for it to feel like Batman, because that's the part of the Batman shtick, is that, he doesn't have superpowers. He just beats people up and gets what he wants and brutalizes, in a brutal world. And the depiction of the world he's in is quite good, but the fighting is very pedestrian. It just feels, and it's literally, and that's my biggest problem with the game, is that this feels very wandery and very pedestrian for a Batman game. So Batman, as far as I'm aware, doesn't tend to. If you imagine, let's transcribe this game into a TV episode of the 60s Batman, if you like. So in this episode, Batman's computer's broken, and so he just wanders around left and right, picking things up and trying things. And then he wanders out, and then he wanders down, and he fights a few people and just wanders, walking around, and just, where's the Batmobile? Where's the climbing up the walls? Where's the stuff that Batman does? Why are the fights so floaty and pedestrian? Why don't anything feel like it has an impact? Those are the things that make Batman Batman. The comic panels, everything else, yes, that's a key part of it, and you've got that, but you forgot about what makes the Batman Batman. Not just the comic, but the actual person, the thing. And so you placed him inside an arcade adventure. Okay, I get that. But you forgot about his fighting, and you just make him walk around a lot. So it's a walk and seat game. Now, we've not had one of those in a while, and this does it in a nice style with the gusto and the graphics and, even the sound, although I don't like all of it. It's some of it suits it. But when you're walking around, you get kind of this burbly music. It's just not driving an action-based game, which is what I thought this would be more of. So it feels like it's like a weird toned-down version of Death Wish 3 in a kind of weird way. It's not as bad as that, because Death Wish 3 had its sort of quirks. There's nothing like that intense. This is like a comic book version of how it should probably be done. It's just I felt it was missing the point of Batman, and that for me was a problem. So I liked everything they did. They did it the right way, the code base, everything else, stuff, graphics, everything's all great. The main problem is it's just not very exciting for a Batman game. It's not doing enough Bat stuff.
True.
For me.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I do get that. I just... This predates like Batman's reinvention in the film and stuff. So,
but he's still doing action stuff in the TV show. It's an action comic.
Yeah, so true.
I just don't think that him. I don't think it's very exciting. Just walking around picking things up and using them in different locations.
It is formulaic and it doesn't go enough. Like I said, I would have liked it to have taken some tips from Usagi Yojimbo and made the encounters more encounterful rather than just this constant barrage of them.
In the comic and in the TV series, which I suppose are the precursors for this variation, the fights happen in a fight space.
Yeah, exactly.
So Batman goes into a room and the fight breaks out, and it's thwack, it's that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You could have had comic panels shoot up when you hit someone that said pow or whack or even little sprites that just popped up and said those things. That would have given it that kind of Batman essence that would have felt a little bit more like what they were trying to do. Without those things, you're just missing the mark, and it just feels like it's a bit. Batman games, should they be dull? It felt to me as I went through it, and it just seemed to, and I seemed to be walking. It's like Batman. Batman Goes for a Walk was not the most exciting comic book they ever produced, and that's what this feels like to me. And I felt it just missed the mark a little bit. Even if they just had some interstitial bits with the penguin, even if it was just a screen with a penguin graphics or an image of him on, or the penguin or something, and some phrase that he said every now and again, something like that, just to remind you that you're not just Batman wandering around looking for a shoe. That there is a bigger mission to this. There is an imminent peril from a villain, which you don't really feel. And because of those things, I don't get the 92% for this. I'm sorry, I really don't. From the look and feel, okay, it's a nice looking game, but it's not 92% Sizzler for me.
I wouldn't score it that now. I can see why they gave it that then, but I wouldn't put it that now.
No. But I'm going to say, if you divorce the graphics from the game, this looks like an amazing looking game on the C64. I mean, the graphics are really good.
Yeah,
backgrounds look nice. I mean, I've got no question. The styling of this game is absolutely, it's on point. It's in the top 10, even top 15 of graphics on the C64. It looks so good. But underneath the hood, once you lift it up, she bought a 911 Carrera. When you lifted it up, it was a Fiat Panda engine in it. Like, oh,
I mean, under the hood, it's everyone's a Wally.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be, should it?
That's what it is. It's what I said. It's a flick screen collectathon, and it is that.
Everyone's a Batman. However,
what I will say though is that I did go have a look at the what I would have thought would have been a better version of these, because normally they are, but the Amstrad version. God, it's ugly.
Yeah,
it's horrible. Yeah. It's all blue and black, and just all kinds of wrong. Yeah. And the Spectrum version is not much. I think it's just as bad. So, all told, we weirdly enough, because I sort of associate the Amstrad with sort of colourful, especially these flick screen games where they kind of do them much more colourfully and stuff like that. But something went badly wrong with this one on those machines. So we did get the best version of the game, I think.
Yes.
Maybe on the 8-bit ones. I'm not sure about the 16-bit versions.
It's the best comic book style adaptation I've seen since Dan Dare. And that's saying because Dan Dare was special. So it's as good as how it looks, if not better than that. And that's saying something. But the other versions, no.
That's not a comic book I ever want to read.
No. In the immortal words of B.A. Baracus, don't play that game, fool. He never actually said that, but I thought I'd paraphrase him. He might have said something similar.
We could have well done. There are lots of episodes of the A-Team, and I'm sure at some point someone asked him to play Afterburner, and because he doesn't like planes, he's not going to want to play that.
He's not going to want to play that for a lot of reasons.
Well, we'll come to that a bit later, but hey-ho. There's Batman. I do agree. I mean, I didn't mind it. But you are right. I mean, you're right in what it does, but I just cut it a bit slightly because, I mean, it's 8-bit Batman. What can they do, I guess? But,
yeah, it's just I would have liked a little bit more of the Batman-y stuff, but it does look the part, though. It really does.
Yeah, that's fair enough. There we go. That's Batman. That's our first game. We've got 8 to get through. We've got loads to do. Let's get on to our next one. And that's over to you, Graham, to tell us all about one-on-one Jordan versus Bird.
Now, this isn't a man fighting a giant pigeon. That was very upsetting to me.
A country versus a giant pigeon would have been better.
It just isn't, I feel a little bit, the advertising for this, I'm just joking. This is $14.95 though. That's a lot of money, that is.
Yeah.
A lot of money. This was published by Electronic Arts. There's the money.
There it is.
Joe Hellison and Mark Madland, good name, were the creators of this, as listed on Lemon, I believe. And Rob Hubbard is the musician. I think, is this the first foray for Rob Hubbard on Electronic Arts? Because obviously he went and did a bit for them.
Yeah, he did. I don't know if it's the first, probably.
I don't know if it's the first. You know what? We could consult the guru. We don't need to. We'll just assume that it's something to do with it. But, wow, $14.95, 32% though. Wah. Something's gone wrong. Something's gone horribly, horribly wrong. Okay. So who is Jordan and why is he fighting a bird? Well, actually, it's Michael Jordan, or MJ to you and me. That's Michael Jordan. And he's one of the most celebrated professional basketball players of all time. He played for the Chicago Bulls between 1984 to 1993 and 1995 to 1998, and has the kind of sporting hero record that means there is probably a warehouse full of his trophies, medals, and winners' certificates.
And trainers.
No doubt that. Yes, and trainers. An incredible athlete, role model, and personal friend. Not really, I don't know him. Just thought I'd add that. It sounded good.
He's here right now.
Me and Michael Jordan are like this. No, we're not really. Larry Bird, if you don't know, was an equally famous basketball player. And he's also celebrated for his amazing skills and contribution to the sport. He played for the Boston Celtics from 1979 to 1992. Mr. Bird, as he likes to be known, also clocked up some unbelievable basketball stats. And so, no doubt, also has a warehouse full of trophies, medals, and winners' key rings. Both of these professional sports people were at the top of their game, and they famously had a rivalry. Now, that's why this game is existing. The rivalry between Michael Jordan and Larry Bird is one of the most iconic and enduring in the history of basketball. Their careers overlapped during the late 1980s and early 90s, and both players were considered basketball legends in their own right. Larry Bird, a skilled forward for the Boston Celtics, was known for his exceptional shooting, court vision. He was far of vision. And I'm joking, that's that guy of Krull. And his basketball IQ. I don't know what that is, but it sounds very good. He had already established himself as one of the game's greatest players before Michael Jordan entered the league, before he was even around. Jordan, on the other hand, was a rising star for the Chicago Bulls, and his combination of athleticism, scoring ability, and competitive drive quickly made him a force to be reckoned with. Their rivalry was fueled by their contrasting playing styles and the desire to establish dominance in the court. Bird, seasoned veteran, and Jordan, the young up-and-comer, often found themselves competing for supremacy in the NBA. Their memorable matchups, including regular season games and playoff series, captivated basketball fans worldwide. While Bird's Celtics initially held the upper hand, Jordan's Bulls grew in strength. That's Bulls.
Did you say Bulls?
Jordan's Bulls grew in strength. The team he played for, Adrian. Come now.
The Chicago Bulls.
Yes, eventually leading to a power shift in the Eastern Conference. Their intense rivalry extended off the court as well, with both players pushing each other to improve and striving to outdo one another. Despite the fierce competition, there was also mutual respect between Bird and Jordan. As they recognized each other's greatness and shared a commitment to the sport, their rivalry played a significant role in elevating the popularity of the NBA during that era and remains a treasured part of basketball history. Thank you. Jordan and Bird, everyone. Here they are. Jordan and Bird. Bird and Jordan.
I am guessing then that from all that, this game's ace.
The Von Trapp family singers. The family Von Trapp.
Edelweiss.
So, a game based on these two behemoths. That's got to be something good, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, it must be after all that. Can't be bad.
Well, let me just bookend that with a little statement about school sports in the UK in the 80s. During the 1980s, UK taught sports in schools faced several significant problems that hindered the overall development and engagement of kids in the school. Firstly, there was a lack of emphasis on a diverse range of sports and physical activities, with a heavy focus on traditional team sports like football and rugby, or easy to set up manage things like rounders, etc. This limited approach excluded students with different interests or physical abilities, leading to a lack of inclusivity and reduced opportunities for students to discover and excel in sport that suited their individual preferences and talents. Secondly, inadequate funding and resources for school programs resulted in poorly maintained facilities and limited access to sports equipment, constraining the quality of physical education and extracurricular sports offerings. As a consequence, many schools struggled to provide comprehensive and engaging sports experiences, undermining the potential benefits of physical activity for students' health and well-being. Add to that, teachers tended to sideline or humour pupils that were considered less sporty or not into football, rugby, cricket, etc. The secondary school we attended, it was actually incredibly well-resourced with basketball courts, tennis courts, swimming pools, a huge playing field for football and cricket, and also all the other things you can imagine. It's actually amazing when I think back how much sports stuff we had.
Yeah, it was crazy.
What we did not have was the teaching staff that would support that, nor could they really engage or encourage everybody to do all the things they wanted to do. Incredibly, you would imagine that a school that had the facilities like that in the UK would be at the forefront of sports education. If it was in the US, it would do. However, it wasn't. Now, why am I boring you with all of that stuff? Well, because basketball was something that never got any airplay really on TV at that time, nor did it get much time at schools. We played it a bit at school, but not to any great extent, nor dedication or time that other sports did. So it was kind of a thing that you might have done a little bit. We did a little bit of it at school, but nowhere near as much as compared to football, rugby, and all the other stuff.
No.
There were pockets of this in the UK and some clubs, I don't doubt, in the cities maybe, But for us rural English counties folk, not so much basketball. There just wasn't. Nowadays, this is different. But back then, I had no idea who Michael Jordan was. Maybe something to do with trainers. And Larry Bird, no idea. Tweety's cousin, maybe a brother of Big. So unusually for a game like this is a one-on-one basketball sim where you go head-to-head for some b-ball action, taking the role of either of these superstars of the hoop. I've made that term up. I don't believe that's what they would have ever been called.
I'm sure they would.
It starts with a clunky sample-loaded Rob Hubbard tune on the loading screen, which is horrible. So I'm put it out there. Say what it is. It's horrid.
It's
one-on-one. One-on-one. It's horrible. Horrible thing. Horrible. It's terrible. Have sampler will use. Should have not been his T-shirt he wore that day. Horrible thing. So I think it's dreadful. Then when the loading happens after that, and then you'll get your screen of options. Lots of options here. So you can choose to be Michael Jordan or Larry Bird. You can choose whether a computer's going to be one of those or not. You can choose the computer level right the way from, and I forget what they call them, but it's in the collegiate language of basketball, but it goes from novice to champion kind of thing. You can choose the length of the quarters. You can choose the value of slam dunk points. You can have a follow the leader. You can choose whether there's fouls, whether there's winners in and outs, clear the ball, statistics. There's a whole bunch of options which will mean so much to you if you know about Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and one-on-one basketball, but which will mean very little if you don't. They're just text options that you go, ooh, what does that do? Not good things. There's all variation of different kinds of play of this. There's one-on-one full game, one-on-one to 15 points, one-on-one to 11 points, a one-on-one warm-up, a slam dunk contest, slam dunk warm-up, 3-point contest, 3-point warm-up. All that stuff is amazing, isn't it? Great. It all plays the same, though. No matter which way you do it, the game will begin, and then you're going to feel it yourself go, oh, okay. So you'll be presented with the court, and whichever control you've decided for whichever play you've designated, obviously the aim of this game is to score. And it's a one-on-one game, so it's just mono in mono, but Jordan versus Bird. In order to do this, when the game starts, you'll see your game view. The top of the screen, you've got your timer, you've got your current scores, you've got the countdown clock, you've got Jordan and Bird on there in text, so indicating which parts of that particular score chart. It's not very engaging, but it's there. Underneath that, you've got the basketball hoop on a sort of purpley blue wall. And then you've got sort of the parts of the court, and I'll explain what they are. And then on the bottom of that, you'll have your sprites, which at this point, before they move, look like quite big sprites. You think, oh, okay, no, this could be all right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it won't last. So you control whichever play you've designated. Obviously, the aim is to score. You do this to score. You do this by shuffling, weaving, bobbing, ducking. I don't know the terminology around your opponent, and then getting the ball in the hoop. That's the plan. You control your play with the joystick, taking it in turns to start with the ball and try and score. The game is played looking towards the basketball hoop from just beyond the mid-court line, just kind of at the 3-point line, but before the free throw circle line. If you don't know what that means, go and look it up. You'll see both Bird and Jordan in sprite form, and depending on whether you are starting with the ball or defending, you will be facing towards or away from the screen. The graphics are classic C64, slightly blocky, but they do look like basketball players, and the players are both of the correct ethnicity, which is nice to see. So then you will move, and that is when you'll go, The animation is skippy, possibly even frame skippy. You don't so much animate as kind of exist in a kind of frame rate animated space. So you kind of hop and fidget and slide and run and fudget and gibbet, and it's horrible. So you're kind of shuffling really around the screen, and this is meant to be kind of a fast basketball thing, and it just doesn't feel like that. So as you flicker and sort of, shuffle and fidget around the screen, eventually you'll get to throw the ball or attempt to throw the ball or even attempt to try and jump up and put it through the hoop by pressing the fire button. Maybe that's what happens, because I'm not sure what was happening at this point. I'm not sure if I was doing anything or the computer just took over. It didn't quite make a lot of sense. The controls are somewhat, I felt, quite badly responsive as well. So when I pressed the button, it didn't immediately do the thing I was expecting to, which would be like just jump or do something. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what was happening. Was I in control of anything? I don't know. I scored 3 times. Or at least I think I did. Anyway, so I have no idea if that's what's meant to happen, but that's just how it is. So it doesn't look very good. When you start moving around, everything starts to fall apart. There's no physics to anything. The ball kind of fidgets with you. You sort of sideways scuttle like a crab at one point. It's not nice. I'm pretty sure that if Jordan or Bird, and I'm not placing the responsibility of this on either of their 7-foot shoulders, that they didn't do that in the ring professionally. They didn't just go, Jordan's got the ball, he's scuttling like a crab. That's something we've never seen before. They don't do that.
He's doing the Jordan crab.
He's doing the Jordan crab. It's a bird crab. He's got the bird crab, the anti-bird crab move. I don't know. I just don't think that's the thing. And so that's it. That's for this game. That's it. It's loads of variations of that game, that one-on-one game, whether it's, shoot the hoop the shoot, drop it in, do whatever the names of the games are. That's what it is. It's not very exciting. There's no crowd. There's no atmosphere. I mean, this is like when Rocky takes on in Rocky 2 at the end, where they're just ding ding. It's just the two of them fighting out in the ring. Nobody's there. No crowds. No
Rocky
nothing. It's like that. Like Rocky. Yeah. It's just it isn't very good.
No.
Considering the status of these two world-class athletes, this game ain't doing them any favors at all. It feels clunky to operate and is, I think, massively underpolished for something of this price tag and with these kind of esteemed licensed players and team names and all of that stuff in it. That's, I guess, where the £15 come from, because you've got some heavy licensed sports people in it. 32% from Zap. I'd have given this a lot less. In fact, I go as far as to say I'm flipping this one the bird. But what about you?
Very good. Very good. I like that. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. How is this so jerky with so little on screen? I mean, how? I don't get it. You think something
he does the jerky move.
you think of something like Barbarian, which has comparable, if not bigger, sprites and stuff, and moving smoothly and spinning around.
Yes, it
IK
does.
Plus and things like that. What, and all the backgrounds, the animations, and the music. I'm looking at a screenshot right now. Behind the basket is just blue. It's just solid blue.
Yeah, there's not a lot there.
The court is a pale blue and grey. Pale grey.
Yes.
What is this? Yeah, the players may be big and well grown, but it's so jerky and not very smooth at all. It's just rubbish. I was expecting something better than this from, as you said, from EA, from the Heritage thing. I was 32%. I was thinking, it can't be that bad. It's worse. Even that game we played way back when, 2-on-2, the 2-on-2 one by GameStar, where it sort of flipped. That was better. That was better than this. That was better than this, let alone international basketball or that fast break we played the other week, which we was okay on. All better than this rubbish. 15 quid. What a joke. I didn't care for this at all. I mean, this is just a port of the old 1983 basket game one-on-one with Julius Erving and Larry Bird. Because there's already been a version of this. It was in 1983 when he had his rivalry with Julius Erving. So, because I thought this was a late release, and I thought, it's actually different. So I went and looked, and there is a Commodore 64 version of the Erving and Bird game. And it looks better than this. Even for 1984, whenever it was. 1989, this is dreadful. 32%, you're having a laugh. No chance.
No. Do you know something that was a little bit unnerving for me when I was playing this?
What's that?
I don't know if you noticed this, but again, it's just. I know it's a limitation of the C64, but Bird obviously is wearing a sort of brown shorts and a brown vest, and then obviously you've got Jordan, who's wearing a pink vest and pink shorts. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, they're inverse. Yeah, they're not just inverse, but it's like they're wearing. It's like he's wearing a flesh version of his basketball clothes, which is kind of weird. I mean, that would be intimidating if he walked out in sort of man flesh. No, this is Battle of the Giant 7-foot orcs, I think. But I found that a bit weird. I think they're wearing, it looks like Bird's wearing bananas for shoes.
And Michael Jordan's got white hair as well.
I think maybe he did at that time. I wonder.
Did he?
I don't know that for sure. I genuinely, I know so little about basketball that I've exhausted everything I know already.
I'm looking at the cover, and he's got black hair. He's always had black hair. I've never known him to have white hair.
Something tells me they've exceeded the sprite limitations of the C64 with its cozy 3-color sprites. So.
True. Well, in fact, he's very close cropped, almost like it's just a skinhead almost. It's very close cropped hair. We don't need any white. It ain't great. It's a terrible game. This just terrible.
Just for that money, along. Goodness me.
Yeah. Hopefully, the next one will be better. And our next one is, it's the first, again, another one I thought we'd had a game based on this before, but we haven't because that was Splitting Images. This is Spitting Image. Spitting Image.
It is.
£9.95. It's, as I said, it's the first official Spitting Image game we've had. And I'm just going to put it out there. It's not very good. It's not very good. We've spoken about Spitting Image before in one of the many TV sections we've done. They've come up and we've discussed what it is. In case you missed that, though, Spitting Image was a satirical TV show that parodied celebrities and politicians of the time through the use of caricature puppets. It ran for several years, spawned songs and books and what have you. And it was, I think it was at 10:30 on a Sunday night. It used to be on.
Yeah, very popular. It
was very, very popular. Spawned a #1 single, the Chicken Song, and everything like that. So, and it, poked fun at all the great and good or whatever sort of thing. And no one was safe. No one was safe. Everyone got, whatever stories such as the president's brain is missing about Ronald Reagan and things like that. It had the Tories as kind of like an S&M party and all kinds of weirdness. Finally, now it has spawned a game, and there's a story behind this game. I'm just going to paraphrase it. I can't be bothered to read it out, but to paraphrase it, a prophet has seen that 7 years in the future, a war will break out that will leave only one leader in place. And it is your task to stop this leader and prevent the war from happening, or whatever. I don't think it really matters, but there you go.
Really?
And I was thinking, before I went into this, reading that story, I thought, okay, I'm expecting a bit of an adventure game or something here. I'm expecting a sort of flick screen adventure type thing, maybe meeting the various characters from the show as you try and work out, I think something like Flunky or whatever. Just as you try and work out who's behind everything and stop them. But no. What we have here is a knockoff Yi Kung Fu for some reason.
We do.
I don't know. This was released by Domark for £9.95. £9.95, £10. It was developed by Walking Circles with code by friend of the podcast. I'm very sorry, Carlton Handley, but it's your first game, I believe, sort of thing. And you go on to better things. We'll just say that. Visuals by David Fish and music by negative time loop practitioner David Whitaker. Once the game loads up, we get a decent menu screen really with the 6 leaders, and this actually does look quite nice, this title screen. It's got the 6 leaders who will be taking part in the fight, and they're dotted around the edge. So this title screen's like they've got the 6 leaders, 3 on either side, and they, to be fair, they do look like they're spitting image puppet caricature versions. So they actually are, these are quite well drawn. In the middle there's a shape of a cartoon. It's like the Earth, but it's in the shape of a cartoon bomb, and that's in the middle of the screen, so it was something bad's going to happen. At the top I think there's Queen Elizabeth on a stamp. Anyway, so this is confusing from the start, because the first thing you need to do is you've got an arrow. You can choose 1 or 2 players if you want, but if you're a single player game, you've got to select your opponent from the various characters around the edge. And the characters we play as, there's 6 of them. There's Maggie Thatcher, there's Ronald Reagan, there's Mikhail Gorbachev, there's the Pope, there's P.W. Botha, and there's the Ayatollah Khomeini. So, as I said, nobody was safe. Everybody was in spitting image.
Everyone got lampooned.
Yeah, and then you must select who you're going to fight as. That seems oddly backwards to me.
Yeah.
Is it to you as well? Like you pick your opponent and then you pick who you are. I don't.
Yeah, weird.
That's odd. Anyway, once you've done this, the game loads. It's a multi-load, so every stage loads in. So it loads in the fighters and the arena, and the fighting starts. Each arena is different, and there's different ones. There's like a concert. There's like a fast food restaurant. I think there's outside Parliament. I'm not quite sure. I can't remember. I didn't play enough of them because I was like, no, I've had enough. Controls are simple enough. You've only got 3 basic attacking moves, and that's, you press up, you press towards, or you press down, and you press fire at those times, and they'll do an attack. If you press away and fire, you do your special move. Sometimes that's spitting on people. If you're the Ayatollah Khomeini, I think it was, you can spray a pipe. There's a whip for Maggie Thatcher. None of them are particularly great. If you without the fire button pressed, up does a jump, down does a duck, which is pointless. Up diagonals do a jump in which direction you push, and left and right and move. That's it. You've got 4 if you count especially. You've got 4 attacking moves, and you can jump about a bit, and that's it. The fighting feels, like I said, like it's taking elements from Yi Kung Fu. There's loads of jumping about. You don't jump massively up, but it's just fast jumping left and right all over the place. And it's got the health system of Night Games combat games. So you've got like a health bar on the sides of the screen that's got like a little icon for something. I think Ronald Reagan's is like hot dogs and things like that. And as you take hits, those health bars go down, and so blah blah blah, until you hit to 0. And each fight is the best of 5. So when one of your health bars hit 0, that's that round over. And when over, there's like at the top of the screen, there's Queen Elizabeth II in a stamp, and she comments on it, blah blah blah. Says that it seems like we need to fight again, and whoever's going to win the next one, depending on what it is. And like I said, if you win 3 out of 5, then well done. If you lose 3 out of 5, it's game over. But if you win 3 out of 5, you go back to the menu screen, you pick another opponent, and then you pick who you want to play as this time. So you're not tied to the same fighter each bout, which again it's an odd way to do a fighting game. I don't think I've ever seen this where you can fight whoever you want, whenever you want, as you really want. It's just very strange. Should you take out all the other characters, then you face off against the secret final boss to win the game and stop the war and what have you. The visuals in general, title screen excluded, are very bitty. And whilst the backgrounds are bitty, they're not, you have to squint and they're kind of, oh yeah, I can see what it is now. And the fights, the characters in the fights are quite small. They're smaller than the Yi Kung Fu characters, but they're quite small. They vaguely resemble their TV puppets, but they're not very well animated. There's not many frames of animation here. In fact, the punches and stuff or whatever, as you knock them out and as they take blows, are like one frame. It's like, it's not great. The sound, the title screen tune, it does have the show's tune, I guess, but it's only like 40 seconds long, but so it does have it. But the rest is pretty rudimentary. the main issue with this is just that the fighting is terrible. It's terrible. As a one-on-one fighter, it was bettered by the games I've already mentioned 3 years ago. Yeah, Kung Fu had its issues, but was still okay and was still better than this. Night Games was a good laugh with all its combat fans, whether you're flailing maces and things like that, way better. This is none of the appeal of either of those games. It's not as bad as, obviously, we've seen worse, things like Ninja Hamster. But when you factor in the IKs and things like that of the gaming landscape, this is very little going for it, apart from you'd have to be a massive fan of Spitting Image to want to sort of get in on this. The backdrop's a little different, I guess, and they've tried to include the humour of the show, with the sort of comments from Maggie and the characters and the things like that, and the silliness of it all and the special moves. But when the core component of the game is just rubbish, no amount of polish can make this shine. It's not very good. I'm sorry. It's a bad fighting game, and I think 39% was being a bit generous, if I'm perfectly honest. Sorry. But there you go. What did you think?
Some of the graphics were okay, like you say. But for a fighting game, well, the fighting was too small and not impactful enough, was it? No. I can sort of see the direction they were aiming for, I think. Big picture, that kind of Super Smash Brothers, is it? That kind of smaller characters. Not Yao Kung Fu, but caricatures of things fighting. But it's not there yet, is it, this?
No.
Doesn't capture any of the anarchic nature or satire of the Spitting Image show. And I think that's a problem, really, because it is a political satire show with puppets. It's not the Muppet Show with, doing politics stuff.
Which is why I thought an adventure game, as you spoke to characters, may have sort of tied into this, where they go about text completely. And speaking and...
Completely. So, well, that would make sense, because if you're going to boil something complex like political satire down, it doesn't boil into a fighting game. It just doesn't make sense. This game makes no sense. There's no line that you can draw from political satire puppet show to one-on-one fighting game a la Yeah Kung Fu. There's just no line there. It doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe there's some fun in watching the political figures of the time try and beat on each other. I don't think, though. It's very dated. I guess it's of its time. The music was a passable Whittaker version of the Spitting Image music, but, Whittaker gave it his usual 46-second attention. But other than there being some nice graphics here and there, these kind of fighting games like this, like we saw with that Ninja Hamster, they just have a very short appeal where you've got, smaller characters doing fighty stuff. They just don't really work very well.
Nope.
Not in a world of IK plus International Karate, Way of the Exploding Fist, Yusagi Yojimbo, where we've seen bigger characters and caricatures doing more interactive stuff like that. It just, you're boiling it down to something that makes no sense for this, and then sticking quite a high price tag on it, which is odd because the audience for this wouldn't have been people generally that would have necessarily gone for this. It's all kinds of all over the place.
Yeah.
And for that reason, and the code side, I know it's Carlton and the code is nothing wrong with the code in the sense that it's all working really well and all the rest of it. It's all good. And it's, if it's his first game, then, fair play. There's a lot of good stuff going on in there. But unfortunately, it's a bit of a misfire as far as the game design goes, and the fun of the game isn't there, nor is the satire of anything. So just watching Margaret Thatcher hit Ronald Reagan over the head repeatedly would have been fun in a TV show with it happening with puppets. Doesn't work here, though, does it? It doesn't work in tiny 8-bit sprite version. So no, sorry, it wasn't my cup of tea. And as you rightly say, 39% is actually quite high for a game of this type. Sad to say, it's not very good. But some of those graphics are quite nice. But other than that, no.
There we go. That's Spitting Image. Let's move on quickly. We've still got one more game to get through this part. Another 5 still to come. Loads to do. So let's waste no time. Let's get straight into it. Graham, it's over to you. Is it better to be dead than Alien?
Better dead than Alien. What an odd thing, this, really. £9.95 this cost. Another high price. Published by Electra Software. Design was Jason Kingsley. The coder was Stephen Dunn. The musician was Mark Tate. This scored 66% in Zapped at the time, which is, I suppose, the best you can say about that is it's kind of middle of the road, dare I say it?
It's 2/3.
2/3, yeah. It's just a bit, Anyway, so this is described by themselves as an ultimate shoot 'em up. I'm not so sure about that. It says in the blurb, prepare to do battle as you and galactic hero Brad Zoom face the most revolting life forms ever to pollute the universe. Watch the horror as sickening waves of malformed mutants threaten to obliterate freedom and democracy. Risk your lunch as you and Brad choose between decency and annihilation. Okay, all right. Your mission is to wipe out alien waves as they appear in the battle zone. Be prepared to face all manner of unearthly beings. Some may be easily destroyed. Do not be deceived. Those that come after can be stubborn and lethal. But do not fear. Help is at hand. You can win devastating extra battle powers and during master alien waves the freedom to move over the entire battle zone. An alien is at its weakest when its eyes glow in putrid green. Blast a greenie, dear, and it will release a power capsule which can be picked up by your ship. The power capsule can recharge your power bars or, if one of the panel icons is flashing, boost your firepower with the indicated destructive intensifier. Normally, any enhanced firepower you gain will be exhausted by the end of the current wave. Blast the last greenie in a wave, however, and the power is so attained and will carry on through to the next level. Okay, and I'll talk about what the extra weapons are in a little while, but essentially, it's a fairly straightforward game. Kill everything. Very straightforward logic there. I think the first thing to say about this is all hail medium res. Good old colourful medium res. Good old blocky, sideways, colourful medium res. This is a simple game, isn't it? Shoot everything. You can't really argue with that. Nope. It's a Space Invaders throwback or homage or reimagining. I don't know what you call that at this point. Whatever you call that, that is what it is. Okay? There's an okay title screen with a nice circle sprite type effect, sort of rotating around. Gives you a nice, greets you when you get in there. There is also a loading screen. So the title screen is just kind of text when that's nice sprite effects. I'll talk about that in a little while. There is a loading screen according to Lemon. That looks okay. You can see a screenshot of that in the on Lemon if you go there for this. The title screen, however, is just the name of the game at the top with its copyright. A nice typeface, though. I thought it's okay. There's to put the, it's not the Commodore font. There's that sprite spinning thing, which looks okay. And then the UI for the game is also at the bottom of the screen. I never know if I like that or not with these games. It just feels like
the UI being
just on the title screen. It's just a bit like okay, but I don't know. I don't know if I like it or not. Maybe not here. I don't, because the UI looks like it was badly built out of character graphics, and they don't know. It was an afterthought at best. There's no style to that. It's just blocks with sort of scraggy bits of graphic on it. So we may as well start with the UI, I suppose, at the bottom of the screen there, because you choose the options at the top to kick things off, really, and you've got like 1-player, 2-player game. I think you've got level practice. You can switch the music and sound effects on off. There's even a video color mode. Seems to be popular with a few of these games where you can turn the color off or on. I'm guessing maybe for, I don't know, for what purpose you would do the black and white tellies. I don't know. It doesn't seem to do a great deal of stuff, really. Once you do that, you can choose your options, and you can and then there's a start the slaughter option, which obviously is where the games begin. UI is at the bottom of that. You've got your score in there. Then you've got the 8 power-up indicators, which I'll go through in a moment. So once you kick things off, aliens appear in lines, waves. You shoot all of them to progress and repeat. Eventually, you'll get through, I think, 3 or 4 of those, then you'll get a giant alien of some description, which you then shoot. So one big one, you shoot that, and then it goes back to the next screen of a wave of aliens in a slightly different pattern, but similar kind of order. So row upon row, sort of wiggly waggling. Shoot them. Some of them move and fly a little bit, but it's kind of a mixture between Space Invaders and Galaxians, really, and that kind of sort of logic. Some of them will drop those extra weapon things that you can collect, and when you do that, you can then, obviously it's the flashes, and if you get the right greenie or whatever you call it, you can have laser scatter bolts, multiple blast, auto repeat, armor missiles, stuns, neutron bombs, clone ships, and shields. And it sort of goes from a sort of left to right across the bottom. You've got this row of icons, 8 icons. I won't describe the icons because it's hard to describe an icon, but it's like if I said to you, there's a Z, a bullet next to a blob.
It's okay, we know. Yeah, there's icons.
Yeah, there's icons at the bottom, and they mean stuff. The in-game graphics are small, bitty, and very, very medium res. I mean, the commitment to the medium res for this game. And I admire equipment like that. The colours are okay if you've got colour on. Music is quite a jaunty number. Not wholly suited to this kind of thing, really, but it's okay. It all feels budget, but this isn't at budget price. It's reasonably well put together, but it's just this is a lot of money for a jacked up Space Invaders, which is what this is. At £10, I'm not sure where the value is coming from for this. It plays fast enough. The code base is, okay. It's not what you call buggy, but there's not a lot. I mean, if you can't master a Space Invaders game many years after Space Invaders and Galaxians have already been done, and these variations of this have been out on the platform since 1983-84. This isn't adding a great deal to that space. There's a little bit of fancy, some stars in the background on some of it, and maybe the graphics are quite, it moves around quite fast, but it's not doing a whole lot of innovative stuff. Now, there's nothing that a shooter hasn't done a million times before and better. I mean, are you going to put this, really going to put this side by side with any one of the other amazing shoot-em-ups that we talked about? Put it next to Delta, which is quite old. Mm-hmm. I'll put this next to Warhawk, which was budget. I'll put this next to, what was the really fancy one? The Hunter's Moon or Armalite. Put it next to Armalite. You're paying this, you're paying top whack for this. Are you really going to align this to that? Mm-hmm. They're just not comparable. This should be a budget game. This should be, at $1.99, I'd say, okay, maybe the $4.99, it might kill a couple of hours. for £10, dream on. Now, I don't think it's a terrible game. I think it's a terrible price, but I don't think it's a very exciting game, and it's not doing anything really that innovative. In fact, it almost feels like it's a student's first game, and oftentimes you get these kind of games like that, which maybe it was, I don't know, maybe it was. But for me, 1989, and where we've had some really complicated, crazy game code and stuff like that, this feels like that other game that we had. What was it, Blip or Blop or whatever it was, the one that was 6,000 ways of playing Pong. It's not as bad as that.
But I know what you mean.
But it's just, but it's a retro revisit when retro isn't a thing. Nobody wanted this. There's already games that are better than this anyway, doing this exact thing, if not better. I don't see what this is bringing to that pie. And at full price, I'm sorry, but, your name's not Dave and you're not coming in. What about you?
No. Well, I mean, just to sort of, before I go into what I want to say, sort of thing, considering we had games like we looked at that Moon Crester. That was better, probably. We looked at Gaplus.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Doing more interesting games.
Gaplus was way better than this.
But this is Jason Kingsley's game, isn't it? It's his first solo game. So he did work something, I think, on that Trivial Pursuit one, but this is his first solo game by the looks of it. He went, I mentioned before, he goes on to found Rebellion, do Sniper Elite, Zombie Army, Strange Brigade, Rogue Trooper, Aliens versus Predator. It's one of the big software houses in the UK.
I get it. Don't excuse this.
No, but where you were saying like his first game, it is his first game. And you think that's a spot on sort of, it's like, feels like a Rayburn game to me, an early Rayburn game.
Well, it says designed by Jason Kingsley, but it says conversion by Steve Dunn. So I don't mean that Steve Dunn maybe because Steve Dunn did the code, so Jason Kingsley did the design. But I don't mean, it could be a bit of
possibly
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah. It's got like my first comment on this, it's a strange old thing, but £10 though. This is budget game fodder written all over it. I don't know why this is £10. If this had been I've written the same as you. If it had been £2, I'd have probably received this much better. It's just Space Invaders, Galaxians, and Asteroids. I mean, those interstitial bits where you shoot in rocks that split into smaller rocks and smaller rocks. Yeah. That sounds very familiar, except I can't rotate. Yeah. I did like when some of the music is ripped off from all over the place. There's a Galactica sting.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, little
and also
Galactica bit.
The music, I think, on the first level of the Rangers is Assault on Precinct 13 rip-off, I think.
Oh, I didn't get that. But
it's definitely a Carpenter piece. I'll
take your word for it.
It's the chord sequence. I was like, why have I heard that? I think it is. I might be wrong, but it's a Carpenter piece. It's like you said, it's not much to look at. This is it. Medium res in all its glory. But, it's mindless fun, but it's £10. Just take you out. I mean, nice explosions and a sprite multiplex though, but I mean, you can see where it splits when your bullet passes over because it moves a bit to the left. But it's £10. This should never have been a tenner, not ever. This is a budget game and £2. Like you said, Warhawk. What was that other budget? I mean, we played that other one by Gary Biasillo the other week, not too long back. That sort of left to right shooter. Things like we've had things like that. Yeah. And there are loads of shooters now that came out ages ago. I mean, Sanction and Delta are probably all available on budget. It's £10 for this. Sit this, like you said, next to Armalite, or you can't sit it next to Catechist, but Denarius or R-Type and things like that are out now and coming along. Just too simple, too basic budget fodder, but £10. No. There we go. It's probably best not to be dead than an alien. There we go. That's our first 4 games. We're going to go away. It's quite a long section, that. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to have a drink. We're going to come back and we're going to get into singles. Singles, Graham, from March 1989. Singles. So we will see you in a short moment. And we are back. We're back for singles in March 1989. Let's get straight into them. Number 1 for the first 2 weeks, Graham, was Too Many Broken Hearts by Jason Donovan.
Too many broken hearts. Or is it Too Many Broken Carts in a world where lots of carts got broken? Too many broken darts?
Maybe you've been playing lots of... Mario Kart went out by this point.
No. I don't know. It's a Stockache and a Walkman song because it's Jason Donovan and he was one of their acts. Very catchy, but so was The Plague. That's all I'm saying about it.
Not everything that's catchy is good, you mean?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's just, I don't like Jason Donovan. I didn't like this song. And maybe there are too many broken hearts, Jason, but what would you know about it? That's what I'm saying. Well, probably not, actually, because he was really crazy good looking.
What was the second one? It's too many broken hearts in the world. There's too many
people been broken into.
That's a weird line, isn't it?
Is that might not be right?
It must be too many hearts have been broken into.
It must be, yeah. It can't be too many people, although it could be people.
Who knows? If it is too many people have been broken into, it's like just going around snapping people.
Know. I'm glad I don't remember the lyrics, really. I'm glad about that.
Absolutely. Well, he is named after a vehicle that delivers meat, isn't he?
Yeah, Donovan. Yeah, Donovan. Yeah. Terrible.
For the final 2 weeks of the month, a bomb drops, basically. It's Like a Prayer by Madonna. Controversial, Graham.
Well, it was. The video was, actually, perhaps a little more than the song. The video was very controversial. Madonna described Like a Prayer as the song about a passionate young girl so in love with God that it is almost as though he were the male figure in her life. Okay.
She has a thing about fathers in her songs, doesn't she? Papa Don't Preach, I guess.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. This was actually, it's a good song, this, with very intense production, but this was Madonna just into her 30s at this point. I think she was 30, or 30th birthday was that year this came out. She hadn't recorded anything for about a year and a half at this point either. So, because she'd been trying to get into acting, hadn't she? And that had kind of gone, nosedived a bit, so didn't go down so well. So this was kind of the return, wasn't it? But the video for this was highly controversial. It upset religious groups all over the world, including the Vatican, of course, who immediately protested the video, saying that it showed blasphemous uses of Christian imagery. And they called for a national boycott of Pepsi. I mean, the Catholic Church versus Pepsi seems like a crazy thing, but that, it happened.
It's like something in our Neuromancer future.
After she performed it in a Pepsi commercial. And PepsiCo subsidiaries, including KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut. The church versus Pizza Hut. It's just, you couldn't make it up, could you?
It's MTV. It's that, what's that sort of animated fight thing they used to have?
Oh, gosh, what was that called? It'll come back to me.
It will do.
Pepsi explained the differences between their advert Madonna's artistic opinions in the video and later gave in to the protests and cancelled the campaign. Crazy. Pope John Paul II got involved. Can you believe that? And encouraged fans to boycott the singer in Italy altogether. I mean, goodness me, if you're going to make an impact with a song, the Pope saying don't buy it. I mean, what? Say what?
I don't know.
I mean, okay, I'm not criticizing anyone's religious choices or anything like that. You believe in what you want to believe in. That's fine. It's totally cool. But it just seems mad that it went as high as the Pope. The head of the Catholic Church said, "In nomine Patris Spiritus, don't buy that bloody record."
Yeah, but I reckon how many people did buy it because he said don't.
Oh, exactly.
We call it the relax paradox.
You missed it. No, I thought you was going to say "Popey don't preach." Then I was waiting for that.
No, Pope. Yeah. Papal don't preach.
Papal don't preach. Anyway,
there you go.
So in reality, the TLDR of that situation is Madonna managed to piss off the Pope.
Yeah, absolutely.
This time it's religious. No, it's just like I'm saying, yeah. But papal don't preach. I love that.
Madonna versus the Pope would have been it was Celebrity Deathmatch.
Celebrity Deathmatch. They probably did do that in Celebrity Deathmatch.
It should have been, yeah.
Oh, crazy that a song could cause so much trouble.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You don't mess with the Vatican. They send the best, exorcist out, who happens to be Russell Crowe, with a really dodgy accent. If that documentary I watched the other week is anything to go by.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, they'll get that guy. What's that guy? That's that movie, is that not the one with the God particle in it, the other one. And the one with the paintings of, you know what? I can't remember what it's called. It doesn't matter. Angels and Arseholes, whatever it's called.
Angels and Demons. Those Dan Brown books are so stupid. Don't get me started on them.
That's it. No, I won't. I suddenly realised what I've done.
Film.
Let me just get Pandora's box and the lid will close. There we go. It's closed now.
Code. Of course it's a code, you stupid idiot.
That's it. I'm putting the lid back on the backy tin right now.
God damn it, that film.
Wow.
I was so angry at that film.
So I've just closed 6 Ghostbusters ghost traps. Everything's closing down now.
So it's okay. Everything's all right.
God,
we're all good
here. I forgot about that trigger. I forgot about that particular trigger. I quickly move on.
How's you today?
You don't know. Honestly, people listening to this podcast, trust me, we just avoided a near massive megalithic explosion.
5th of March.
Okay.
Let's move on.
I'm sweating.
Gally, it's had today. 5th of March. In at number 28 is Who Wants to Be the Disco King by Wonder Stuff.
Is it me, or did he sound, not it, did he sound when he sang like Suede in place of the band Suede?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, obviously this predates Suede, but yes. My my problem with this is that some of their other tunes have a decent hook, even if I don't like him, but this doesn't. And it's ironic not to have one, seeing as you're bemoaning boring songs on the radio.
Yes, they are.
As far as I could see, people in glass houses and all that. It's like if you think you're gonna do a song about the banality of radio, you get Radio Gaga.
Yeah.
And that that can knock it because that's got it's great hook, it's nonsense, it all works. This just feels like nowhere near that. Shame, really. Number 32, Round and Round by New Order.
It wasn't good, that.
No, I think we mentioned it on the album when we mentioned the album last month.
I didn't realise how overproduced and mixed up it sounded. And we described, actually, when we talked about their album, how it was just those people were turning up at a studio and this album appeared at the end of that process, and not many people were involved in actually talking to each other. And it really shows, because this is a track that's going in 10 different directions at once, dreary directions as well. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's not very good. And at number 36 is One Man by Chanel.
Yeah, nightclub fodder of the late 80s and early 90s. It all sounded like this, didn't it? All of it. There's loads of it. We've got about 4 of these tracks this week. Yeah, there's tons of them. I mean, we're going to see a lot more of them. This starts in the video with the dance that they all do, which is kind of, a wiggle.
She's swimming. It's like doing it's like doing a bit of breaststroke.
Yeah, I don't know because I noticed that, I've seen a few artists do this that we've got. Some of you wouldn't expect. So obviously all these acts we do. Belinda Carlisle did a bit of it. Tanita Tikaram did a little bit of this kind of wiggly dance in one of her videos as well. Maybe it was just an 80s dance craze that never reached our transoms, Adrian. I don't remember you ever doing that wiggly dance. I'd remember that. I would remember something. I'd remember that. I would remember
You really would remember that.
Worst if Brown Sauce was doing it, because that would be like watching Gollum dance. And nobody should ever witness that, ever.
Oh.
And I've danced with him on a dance floor to Ministry, believe it or not.
That is true, you have.
Yes. And then he broke my neck, but yeah.
Got to be done. Number 40 is Vagabonds by New Model Army. Great song.
This was the one, it's a good song. It's the one I remembered. When I heard it, I was like, oh, it's that one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very catchy. Yeah, I remembered it from, the Barge in Grimsby, Gulliver's, and so many places.
Emblematic of the album we spoke about the other week, which is a really good album, as I've come to find out.
When I listened to it, I was like, oh, it's that one, yeah. And it is a really good track. No argument there.
Similarly, number 55 is The Rattler by Goodbye Mr. Mackenzie.
It's not bad, this.
It's okay. I've noted that it lacks a bit of the usual sort of spikiness. It's a bit smooth.
It's a bit Deacon Blue is what it was.
Yeah, it's a bit... Yeah, it's not...
Better than Deacon Blue, because, everything's better than that. But it's, it did have it started to get, like you say, it was some of the saw edges were a little bit smoothed here. There's a bit of filler in the cracks.
Yeah, which is sometimes the best. Which makes the songs better.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, because that sort of because the two singers, because one's Shirley. I was going to say Shirley Crabtree. Then
I was going to say Shirley Valentine, which is even worse.
I want it to be Shirley Crabtree.
So do I.
But it's not Shirley Crabtree.
And the other singer was Giant A-Stacks.
Now that I'd pay good money to see. But yeah, so it's a Shirley. What is his name? Shirley
Manson.
Shirley Manson. So her voice is kind of a nice offset to the guys when he sings, and it normally works. In this one, it just comes over a bit. It's a bit cheesy. I wonder if they were just told release a track that's going to make some money. so this came out because
Goodbye, Mr. Mackenzie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't remember them being around for much longer as a Goodbye, Mr. Mackenzie at this point. So I think their contract days were numbered, as
maybe.
Merlin
they are
would say.
still going. Unless I think they've reformed or something, but probably have. I don't know.
Yes, exactly.
In at number 58. Is Yo Yo Get Funky by DJ Fast Eddie.
I predicted in our little that you would hate this song in less than a second. I bet I was right.
You were right, because it went, woo, yeah, woo, no.
Yeah.
That's essentially my comment. As soon as I heard that, I was like, turn off. No, I'm not listening.
I knew you'd hate. As soon as I heard it go, wow, yeah, it's like, you like that. And I was right. You were right about that saddle.
You were right about that loop.
Don't use it that much in any song ever. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't. Number 66, End of the Line by Travelling Wilburys.
So this made me laugh for a number of reasons. It's not a bad old song. It's all right. It's nice. What can you say? It's nice. It's like it's in there. It's Jeff Lynne's in there, isn't he?
Yeah.
ELO's Jeff Lynne. Now I've got a picture of you in a curly wig where you look like Jeff Lynne from ELO. In fact, we commented on it at a Christmas party we were at. Still got that image. Maybe we'll post it to the show notes one day. Maybe we won't. But
maybe
you look exactly like he does in that video. That's what it reminded me. It's like I'm looking at it thinking, is that a Christmas party? And that's AD in the background.
Like a 70s shirt, wasn't I? Had a 70s
shirt and a massive wig, and it looks exactly like that. massive meatball head. Because they've gone two out of three of those of meatball, which is a statistic you can check into. That's called the Wilbury statistic. It's a famous statistic. 2 out of 3 Wilburys are often meatball. And that's a true fact. I mean, we've proved it in tests right there.
It's like a Subway sandwich.
Meatball marinara. Yeah. It's their album.
Only Tom Petty seems to have not succumbed, I noticed. That's because his hair is just so straight. It's you can't do anything with that hair. It's the straightest hair I've ever known.
But if you notice that the guy at the back with the drumsticks, you can see on his back he's developing a hunch lump. And his hunch lump is made of meat, so he's got a meat hump. It's on his back there. Look, he's just sitting, just growing nicely there. It.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's little Bruce Hornsby climbing up, trying to get in on the act. Hey, hello, hey, yeah.
It's a good song, actually. That, and it's obviously we're looking at an image, by the way, of 3 of the band members. It's a still from the video. Go and check the video out if you want to see what we're laughing at.
It's in the show notes.
But it's got some there's some good twiddly in there, and it's not a bad old song.
It's okay. It's fine. It's very Travelling Wilburys,
Yes, it is.
In fact, it's very George Harrison. I thought this one.
Yes, it totally is. Well, he wrote that one.
Yeah,
played it, sang it, did everything really.
It did, yeah. Number 82
opened up the meatballs.
They had a lovely tea.
Lovely old tea.
Number 82, "World Outside Your Window" by Tanita Tikaram.
Yeah, talented maybe, but I don't know. She's just a bit one-dimensional as an artist, and I'm not putting this on her shoulders either.
Mm-hmm.
This is bad management and bad production and bad producers for her, because they're keeping it. Because I think she's got a lot more. She's better than this song. I don't doubt that. This song feels like it's because the other songs. I guess what they're doing is they're sort of positioning her in this particular type, and I think she's a bit more varied than this. But they're making her a bit of a one-trick pony in terms of that moody kind of vibe, and I think that's doing her a disservice because I think she's a lot more talented than she's being allowed to demonstrate in the music and videos that she's coming out with. Personally, I think that.
Yeah, maybe I got the impression that this is an album song that shouldn't have been released as a single.
Yeah, and that's my point. Is that that's bad management and bad not maybe bad production, but bad agency.
Maybe she just was sort of become a bit more popular than they thought, and we're like, oh, we need another single. I
get that impression because the video was nothing.
No, it's not.
It's just,
but
they're walking around nothing. It's so bland.
At this point, she's 19. It's her first album, but I will agree, it's a bit of a nothing song. It's not one I remember from the album, and I've listened to the album a fair bit. But.
She's a better artist than that song.
Yeah, absolutely. It's way better.
And I don't particularly like her, but I'll give credit where credit's due. I think she's getting a disservice from somebody higher up.
The problem is the best track on the album, they could never release it as a single. It's Valentine Heart. You could not release that as a single. You couldn't.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's because it's not single material, but is what it is. Number 84. In at number 84 is "Save Up All Your Tears" by Robin Beck.
They should put in brackets for this again, shouldn't they? Because this is like the 4th or 5th version of this.
I don't know. Is this who did it first?
Bonnie Tyler sang it originally. It's a song that's written by Desmond Child and Diane Warren. Can't you tell?
Yes, you can.
You tell? It's just, if someone check the Desmond Child boxes, chorus check, sounds like a load of other songs that he's written, check. Could be sung by any one of these people. Bon Jovi, insert. I guess I originally, as soon as I heard it, I thought, I bet Cher's sang a version of that. Of course she did. And then I thought, I bet Bonnie Tyler's had a go at that. Bonnie Tyler sang it originally. And then, of course, there was also Bonfire's version, which is a band that Desmond Child had a lot to do with. There's also Frida Payne, who's another artist that both Desmond Child and Dan Warren had a lot to do. This song has just been regurgitated like a bad meatball. Now, that's not to say that it's not a terrible, terrible song, because it's not. And Robin Beck is stunning in that video. I mean, she's insanely attractive lady in the video, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even got Paul Stanley on the backing vocals on the Robin Beck version. But it's just, how many times are you going to release the same song? What's it really, what's it offering? And if you really want to laugh, and if by the way, if you've got anything like shelves that need sanding, or you've got something like that, just play the Bonnie Tyler version. A gravel voice will just immediately smooth any wood. I don't mean that in any kind of sexual way. I'm just saying. And also, you've got the Bonfire version. Maybe avoid that one.
I would avoid that one.
Maybe avoid that one. That's not a good one. The Robin Beck one is probably the best of the lot, actually.
Yeah, and the Cher one's not quite good. And Cher looks astonishingly good as well when she's got straight hair in that video. Ridiculously so. I was
it was it's the second song she released after Turn Back Time with a slightly less controversial video, but just as scanty.
Yeah, I don't normally sort of comment on looks sort of thing, but I was taken a bit aback. I was like, good Lord. Anyway.
Yes, she looks good considering she was in that video. She's 700 years old.
Well, some say 1,000 years old.
Yeah, she's not bad. She's not bad looking, is she? That one, she's lovely. Well, she's all right, she is.
At number 90 is Rain, Steam and Speed by the Men They Couldn't Hang.
Yeah, we've come across these before, haven't we? I felt somewhat political alternative version of the Levelers.
Yeah, I think the Levelers are quite political as well, but I get what you're saying. I mean, it's that kind of, dogs on strings music.
Yeah, it's just that kind of, when they're jingly jangly sort of mandolins and the guy going, and then the man found a rod in his back and all that kind of thing. Not for me, that.
Not for me either. 12th of March, in at number 2 is Like a Prayer by Madonna. We've already spoken about that. We don't want to, raise the ire of the Pope any further. No. Or he may start on us.
People don't preach, and I think that's great.
Number 15 is Keep On Moving, featuring Karen Wheeler by Soul to Soul.
Soul to Soul. This is actually very Soul to Soul.
It's
a
the
very good track.
Quintessential Soul to Soul, isn't it?
Well, it's because their big one was Back to Life, wasn't it?
So I suppose so.
I mean, arguably it's the same drum beat, so it's just a slight variation of the thing.
Yeah.
In terms of its production, everything else, it's good. Of course, it features the classic Soul to Soul drum beat, which was also sampled by Enigma. It was sampled by Enigma, famously by Enigma. So, insert this drum beat and someone with a shakuhachi or a panpipe, and you've got their famous, one of their famous songs. But cut a long story short, it's actually just a Roland TR-909 drum machine doing that. Hence the reason why that drum pattern appears on so many tracks. It's a very boring song, as you said.
This song is so bloody boring. It's so boring.
It is. It's just, but it's because it's the same, essentially. You can play it back to back with Back to Life, and the drum beat will just go on and on. It's a drum machine.
It's like, because it's basically like a more boring version of Sisters of Mercy. Who,
because everyone could do that.
Song into two.
I mean, there's even C64 tunes that have got that in the background. It's like
falling asleep
dumb.
Listening to it.
Yes.
I hate
You're
it.
not back to life at all. He's gone to sleep.
It's sending me off to death. In at number 21 is Paradise City by Guns N' Roses.
See, now for me, this is their best song. I mean, everyone has their own opinion on Guns N' Roses songs, and I get all that. But this is, if someone says this is quintessentially the song I totally associate with Guns N' Roses, and I just think, and it's such an ace song as well.
It isn't a good,
really, really
song.
Good. And it defines Guns N' Roses for me in ways that many of their other songs that people think about them for November Rain and stuff like that, or Sweet Child of Mine. I just think Paradise City is such a brilliant opening track. It's absolutely brilliant.
It's got an insane outro as well. Insane outro.
It does, yeah, really fast down.
It's incredible, that outro.
Yeah, it's really good. Do you remember when we covered this? When we did
I remember when we did a version of this. I wouldn't say it was a cover.
I wonder if you'd maybe blanked out your mind. So it always makes me think of a crazy game you showed me. I couldn't think what it was called, but you've noted that it was Burnout Paradise. That is the right game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so where it was, because that music comes on, doesn't it, when it starts and then you crash cars and things. Yeah. It's such a good track, that, by Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, I love Burnout Games. Number 42 is Family Man by Roachford. He's back.
Yeah, he's back. Andrew Roachford, MBE, please. Give him his full title.
For services to music? You got an MBE? What?
Yeah, apparently. I don't know what those services were, because he didn't do a lot of stuff.
Well, maybe I've done stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, maybe he just, I don't know what he did. Maybe he played the cymbal or the tambourine or something.
But he is Andrew Roachford. So.
Yes, he is. And the band is Roachford. He is Andrew Roachford. They are of the Roachford. So it's like the Borg. They're all Roachford.
Roachford is futile.
It's just that Roachford 6. Where's Roachford 5?
You will be assimilated into the Roachfords. Number 44 is Antisocial by Anthrax. No.
I felt like I should like it, but I don't.
No, I listened to this, and it's they have a sort of, I don't know, they had a reputation when we were younger, sort of thing, that they were this big heavy band, but I listened to it and they're just not, are they? It feels really weak and bland.
It sounded like Judas Priest, and Judas Priest do what they're doing way better, so.
Yeah, not very good at all. Number 50, Days Like This by Sheena Easton.
Dubious video.
This video made me laugh. There's a man eating a whole orange at a dinner party. That's never going to go down well.
I mean, it's the song is very derivative, and it sounds exactly like you'd expect this to sound. Really cheesy 80s yuppie vibes, though, in that video. Venetian Blinds. I didn't realize they were so popular.
Well, they're the window covering of arguments.
They so are.
Because that's what this video consists of. It's like arguing and making up, and then arguing and making up, and oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, his hair, honestly, it annoyed me, his hairstyle in that.
It's just, it made me laugh. Like the gratuitous under the table shot of her opening her legs made me, I was like, good Lord.
Oh, it was a bit much, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know that Venetian blinds were popular in late 80s contemporary apartments and all. But I don't know.
Does sound like the name of a band from the 80s, the Venetian Blinds.
It probably is.
It must be. It's so obvious.
How do you make a Venetian blind? Poke him in the eye. There we go. Or create a complex array of wooden slats and bond them with string.
Number 63. Close that box. Is High Rollers by Ice-T.
I don't know. I think I prefer aggressive iced tea as opposed to this kind of afternoon tea version.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this was. I'm sure there was some scones and.
It was a bit sanitized. It just felt really a bit like. The message wasn't, but the video in the song was.
There's cream and jam appeared in my house when I listened to this.
This just felt like it was. I don't quite get it. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know.
Yeah, number 69 is "Ready for Love" by Gary Moore.
Ready for Love. Didn't he say that in Clockwork Orange?
I don't know. This was
not
awful.
Gary Moore. He might have been in Clockwork Orange. I don't know. I don't know who he was.
This video is terrible. As you've rightly noted, there's hints of meatball. Terrible video. Terrible.
It's so bad.
I don't know what they were going for here, but it's like some it's like some Aldi Price Dave Lee Roth attempt.
It's where they line up the women, as I remember it.
It's just awful. So and not the women are pretty and beautiful and they're nice sort of thing, but the way this is done is like I was like, ugh.
Yeah, it's like a cheese sandwich. It ain't good.
No, no, it's not.
Well, not that kind of cheese sandwich. Cheese sandwiches, nothing wrong with them in of themselves. But
no. In at number 90 is "Made of Stone" by Stone Roses.
Your cup of tea, isn't it? This kind of thing.
Yeah, this is I think their first single and my favourite Stone Roses song, which is a bit weird one. They never
struck out straight away. Then
amazing song. The chorus on this is brilliant. I love the way it builds into the chorus. And the thing is with the Stone Roses, I'm not going to wax lyrical too much about them, but it's easy to forget because of obviously all the Manchester stuff, loads of other bands, everyone went, oh, they like the Stone Roses and stuff like that. Just how good they were in comparison to their peers and how good musicians they were. And I think this song is a real good example of how good they bloody well were. The rhythm section of Manny and Rennie, its drumming's amazing, and the bass line going alongside it is incredibly good stuff. Then you've got John Squire's guitaring, and John Squire is an incredibly good guitarist.
Yeah, very true.
And it's one of the few songs as well where, Ian Brown is not the best of singers. It's maybe the weakest link, but his vocals on this work really well. And the way it all pulls together and just it's just a brilliant song. It's just an incredible song, this. I love it.
Yeah, it's a good song. I'm not massive. I don't know a lot about the Stone Roses. So
no, but they were, for me, they did some really good stuff. Their first album is very good, but this for me was this or Waterfall. But Waterfall's a bit more poppier. But this is incredible. This love this song.
Fair enough.
Not the next one though. Number 91, "The Hunter" by Clannad.
Ooh. Flaky vowel sounds.
This might be the most sepia-toned video I've ever seen.
Oh, wasn't it just?
It's like it's been run through the C64 brown filter.
It was really sepia. Sepia and floaty vowel sound videos. I know they go together, but that's a bullets and guns combination for me.
You never want something that's sepia-looking that floats.
No, I think, you know what? I don't know. Is it a TV show or something? Clannad often are doing themes for TV shows.
God
I don't know.
Knows. Who knows?
I don't know.
In at number 95 is "Nothing Is Stronger Than Love" by Dare.
God, this is cheesy beyond belief. This has got the most stereotypical opening of any track we've had for a long time, this. It's just, I don't know. It's just so cheesy. It's unbelievable. There's
some meatballing as well on the lead singer.
Yeah, it's all going on in this one. It's just,
but this goes through cheese and out button. The other side. And
it's mega cheese.
And Dare, ho ho, I say it. I don't mind this.
Oh dear me! It's just so
there's a couple of Dare tracks that I've heard in the past that I really like. They're all right as far as I'm concerned, but they are absolutely. You have to buy into the fact that you are just biting into a massive cheese sandwich.
Oh yeah,
of rock, of rock.
You'd be telling me you like Bonfire next.
No, that's too much, too far. It's fighting words, boy. 19th of March, number 24, "People Hold On," featuring Lisa Stansfield by Cold
This was
Cut.
a massive, massive, massive hit in the clubs.
Yeah, it was.
Especially in Manchester and around that way. She's an amazing. I mean, okay, you might not. The music stylings of Lisa Stansfield may not be your cup of tea, but she has an amazing voice. A really amazing voice, incredible.
Yeah.
And it's a good track of the time. It just sounds like a lot of them at that time. This is just a cut above that because of her vocal performance. because you would never, not necessarily look at her and think a voice like that would come out of her, and yet there she is. The next track, of course, is even bigger than that one. Been around the world and all that. But that said, you either if you like that kind of thing, but it was just if you went out on a night out somewhere at this particular time in certain kinds of club, you were going to hear that.
You were going to hear it more than once, probably.
Yes, and it got massive radio play. I mean, it was bombarded on radio. It got she became a bit of a household name on the back of that and another song as well. Cold Cut. Well, they're obviously famous in their own right too. So
here we go. Not for me though. Neither was the next one at number 34, which was I Haven't Stopped Dancing Yet. Well, that made me gag a little, actually.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I Haven't Stopped Dancing Yet. I Wish They Would by Pat and Mick.
Oh,
awful.
Horrible.
Awful.
This is a horrible thing. As soon as I saw it appear in the list, I was like, I know what that is, and I don't want to listen to it because I know what it is, and then I thought, I've got to listen to it. I'm like, oh, it's horrible. Stock Aitken and Waterman trash pop.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine this is going to get played at the funeral of Pete Waterman as he's fired from a giant catapult at the moon, or maybe even a trebuchet or something like that.
Hopefully. I was just reminded of the sort of speech from Airplane. Those shoes, and it's awful, and that. It's and those.
Just so bad, so bad. And this, if you want a reason to hate Stock Aitken and Waterman, not that you don't. We've had plenty because there's been at least one Stock Aitken and Waterman track now for every one of our episodes, and they're just getting more and more like this robotronic trash pop guff, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And this is an example of how bad, and it's not even as bad as it's going to get, but this will give you an indication of the kind of torture that we were going through in that 1989, 1990, 91 period. Oh, horrible.
And then you had number 35, Gotta Get You Back by Kim Mazel.
Yeah,
it's another one of them
British
songs.
pop soul, yeah. That's what it's exactly right, exactly what it is. Kim Mazel's got an amazing voice. She's a great singer, but this song is a very derivative of that kind of song. It sounds exactly as I'd expect it would.
And very much so. And number 37, Only the Lonely by Tapao.
Tapao are sort of losing their Tapao.
Hey,
sorry. Hey, Tapao jokes. Hey, have you seen it? But this isn't good, is it? Sounds off key for a start. She's a way better singer than this in this. I think this is another one where the production is letting it all down a bit because it goes from being horrible at the start, then it goes into sort of trite guff of the highest order with that kind of stompy chorus attempt that Tapao are up to this point known for, but this one isn't going to be saved by it. No.
Yeah, it's very Tapao. It's very
Carol
Tapao.
Decker was probably angry about this.
Probably, maybe.
Yeah.
Number 40 is Musical Freedom, Moving On Up, featuring A Diva by Paul Simpson, featuring A Diva.
Yeah, another amazing vocal one with, lots of the same samplers and synth drum machines being used, so it sounds like loads of other tracks of that time.
It's also got house piano, so I was instantly out.
It does have that plink, plink piano. Ding, 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 ding,
like,
ding,
nope,
ding.
Nope, done. Out. I'm running
Off
for the
it goes.
hills. Number 42, this is more interesting. Of Course I'm Lying by Yellow.
It's a great track. That's my very favourite Yellow
song.
track.
I've never heard this before. It's an interesting song, this was. Interesting.
It's really good track, that. But it's of their style in that it's eclectic. So, if you put this next to Oh Yeah or The Race and said,
do
you think that's the same band? You would never have got it the same band. In fact, you would probably argue that this is actually more like a Berlin track than a Yellow track.
Yeah, it's
if
very
you think
odd.
of the way Berlin operate. But I think it's brilliant. It still stands now. It's just such a really lavishly produced track. It's really nice, that. Go and listen to it, my advice.
It did sound like it was missing being in a Michael Mann production of some sort.
Yeah, it's got a movie vibe, hasn't it? Total
really
movie
has,
vibe.
A Michael Mann type
totally.
movie vibe. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, he's got Manhunter out, hasn't he, around this time? So
I put Michael Mann production, so I was also thinking like Miami Vice and things like that.
It's got again that's that vibe. Less Last Them Are Weekends. I won't imagine that would work in that context.
Probably not so much in that one. No, maybe not. No. Of course, Cora, I'm lying.
Who was that meant to be out of that film?
I don't know.
I'm not sure that was Chingachgook, the Last of the Mohicans.
It was generic soldier number 4 on the left.
I was going to say, it wasn't Mogwai. It wasn't, who the hell was that?
Daniel Day-Lewis, supposedly, but let's not hold that against him.
Goodness me. Have you been watching There Will Be Blood or something?
Yes. There will be blood when he gets hold of me for that impression.
He will. He's on his way, I'm telling you. Don't anger him. He's the last person you want to piss off is Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, he's going to chop off my
He'll
left
camp
foot.
outside your house for days. He's like a wasp. No, but like one of them hornets. He'll just follow you around and he ain't going nowhere. He's outside your house right now. He's going to be there for days.
He can smell my cider.
He'll pass out rather than leave the front of your house. You'll walk out and he'll be there and he'll wait one eye will open and that's it. You're done.
I'll be there for you. I will.
You're doing it again. Did I not just explain what's going to happen?
Well, now his brother will come over. There'll be two of them.
Daniel Knight Lewis. Takes it in shifts.
No, I'm not laughing at that. I'm not.
Quickly
Daniel,
escape.
Daniel early morning Lewis. Evening Lewis. Daniel Sunday best Lewis.
Oh, he'll be there. He'll be there.
He'll always be there. One. Only on Sundays. Number 58. Let's Go Round There by the Darling Buds.
I really like that track by the Primitives. I mean, sorry, the Darling Buds.
By Blondie.
By them. No, in all fairness to the Darling Buds, that's a really great track. It sounds like all their others, and none of the others sound that bad to me. It's kind of twee pop. It's nice. It's good. It's fun. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's a bit of woo. It's a bit of way. It's a bit of this. It's a bit of that.
What is it?
It's all right. It's all right.
It's all right. Number 65 is Blow the House Down by the Wee Papa Girl Rappers.
Should be Blow the House Down and in brackets with really annoying trumpet sounds because there's so many of them in that. Oh, it's too many trumpets. Too many trumpets. Too many. Just cut a few out and it'll be fine.
At number 74 was Dreamin' by Vanessa Williams.
The vibe here is smooth and silky. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is, Vanessa Williams is an amazing singer. This isn't a great track by her. It's all right. But while listening to this, the walls in my lounge repainted themselves kind of warm toffee. The curtains changed to silk and all the light walls were replaced with warm tones. There was even a roaring fire in the fireplace. And I don't even have a fireplace.
Well, I'm not surprised when there's someone like that running along a beach. Nobody runs in calf-high tight jeans on a beach. Not in my world.
Goodness, mate. No, he's no. And look topless at the colorization in that. I mean, where is he? Mars? What kind of planet is he on? He's not on Earth.
Don't know.
Anyway, no. Just the filters have gone crazy, man. You lose some of the filters, man. Natural light.
You've gone full on Tony Scott.
He has there, hasn't he? Goodness me. No, he is on the surface of Mars or Venus or something. I don't know where he is.
Number 85, Let the Good Times Rock from Europe.
That's the snapshot off YouTube.
Yeah.
Of Joey Tempest. Joey Monotooth Tempest looking at that as well.
It looks like a hamster, but also he's got an incredibly symmetrical face.
Yeah, what an amazing... We've said it loads of times. He's a great singer, Joey Tempest.
He is a great
not
singer.
Not to be underestimated, and he's an amazing looking guy of the time, isn't he? I mean, that hair is so conditioned. Look at it. I want that hair. It's amazing.
And he twirls a mean mic stand.
He does. He's a proper, he's got that down to a fine art. He doesn't really break anyone's chins with that. He's mad. Because have you ever seen that famous footage of when David Lee Roth came out? Years later, there was a famous Van Halen had got back together. Back in the 2000s, this was in the mid 2000s. Mm-hmm. I think it was on the Letterman show or it was one of those kind of chat shows, or maybe even Jimmy Kimmel or something like that.
Mike.
Yeah, it came out. Obviously, I think one of the later performances, and they were kind of a reunion thing. He came out spinning his mic like a crazy person and smacked himself so hard and broke his nose on stage. So had to stop the performance on the TV show while he went and got patched up. And when he came back, he had a big plaster across the bridge of his nose where he smacked. It's on YouTube. You can YouTube it.
Oh, well, I'll be having a look
David
for
Lee
that.
Roth broke his own face spinning the microphone like that. Well, that's the microphone, not so much the mic stand. But
he needs to take some tips from Joey Tempest because he can spin a mean mic stand.
Good song. It's a boring video because it's a tour video. It reminded me of Spinal Tap when they went into Japan as well. On the famous,
there's a bit right at the beginning of the video where they all jump onto the stage with the guitars, and the explosion from the pyrotechnics at the front is just slightly behind them landing. It made me laugh. They sort of landing. Not there. It's like, you jumped too early. You just jumped too early.
But Europe are a good band, and their songs aren't terrible, are they? So
no, they're all right. They're better than the next one, which is When the Children Cry by White Lion.
Oh God, this song, it's like torture.
It goes on forever. I thought I aged. I visibly aged listening to this.
I'm just going to say this. I think this is maybe the worst rock ballad of the 80s by quite some much.
Well, it's obviously
so bad.
It's their attempts at Mr. Big and
exactly an attempt.
Was that already out by this point, Mr. Big? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? And was it
Be
Extreme?
With You? No, that's not out yet. I think.
No.
Streams More Than Words isn't out at this point.
Well, obviously this is I don't think it is. No,
not yet. No.
So this is an early version of that goes all wrong.
Slightly wrong. Look, this is the worst. I've listened to The Silence by Gamma Ray, and if you can survive that, because that ain't good.
No, it's not.
And then you've got a Tale That Wasn't Right by Halloween.
No, they're not good songs.
Had my heart filled up with ice to avoid it breaking twice. You've got lyrics like that to compete with, and it's worse than that.
It is. And also, I've taken a shot there from the video, and someone thought that shot was a good choice for the video. So I can only imagine what is on the cutting room floor.
Has he got permed sideburns? That's incredible. I mean, that's dedication to the sideburn like I've never seen.
There's a denim waistcoat with pearls by the looks of it.
It's denim waistcoat with pearls and a shark's... Is that shark's teeth or a feather? And then if you go across to the other guy who looks like he's just relieving himself in one way or another, I'm not sure what that's quite like. But scarily, his sideburns have turned into a beard. They've actually grown around his face. Yeah. And I think that's the sideburns have taken control of his hair and just gone, you know what? We're doing our thing now. We're in control.
It ain't good. 26th of March, number 22 is Firewoman by Cult. The Tiny Vampires are back.
Tiny Vampires sounds like every other song by the Cult.
It does. And he looks weird without a bandana.
Yeah, he does actually, yeah.
Ian Astbury. Number 26, The Beaten Generation by The.
Didn't like it. Very heavy on message, very low on likability.
I recognise this song. I knew this song. I'd heard it before. And as much as I don't agree with double word names, this is okay. I don't mind this song. It's got quite a nice chorus. It is very on message. It's very thingy, but it is what it is. And then number 28, Americanos by Holly Johnson.
Crap.
Frothy pop.
It's rubbish.
Frothy pop. I like it.
Blue jeans and chinos. It's rubbish.
Candy Mountain.
Candy Mountain. It's never a good thing. Makes me think of Charlie the Unicorn. Come to Candy Mountain, Charlie.
I can't remember. They're both the same.
It's Candy Mountain, Charlie. It's full of candy and wonder.
Oh,
God, they took my kidney.
Where's my kidney?
Hello?
Number 33 is
Baby. Yes.
Baby I Don't Care by Transvision Vamp.
I thought we'd already looked at this, but we hadn't.
No, we had not. Actually, it just came out.
The one they're most remembered for, isn't it?
It is, yes.
I don't care. Yeah.
And then they quickly disappeared. At number 34 is Can You Keep a Secret? 1989. Is he asking a year to keep a secret?
I feel sorry for him.
Brother Beyond.
Yeah, low polyism, and now in that video, low colorism.
I know.
It's going from bad to worse for these poor old sauce sock puppets.
Please give generously.
Yep, exactly. I mean, good-looking guys, one-dimensional though.
Yeah.
Very
literally. They are three-dimensional. It's just low. Just not many.
They're just flat.
They're still triangles.
There's
not many triangles
to them.
Number 38, She's a Mystery to Me by Roy Orbison.
Not his best song, that. Released during his posthumous revival.
Yes.
Which is a very special kind of oxymoron and a great potential album title for him, maybe.
It is. Posthumous revival, yeah. I was listening to this and I had a thought. Do you think Chris Isaak was influenced by him?
Well, there can be no accident that some Chris Isaak songs appear very shortly at the same time as some Roy Orbison songs, so maybe.
Maybe. Just that sort of high-pitched, sort of slow thing, I don't know. Number 52 is Got to Keep On by Cookie Crew.
Brown Sauce loved this.
Sure he would.
I'd like to see him dance like it, but no.
Yeah, I have, and it wasn't worth it.
No, he's not a dancer, Gary. He's not.
No.
I've seen him pull off some of his shapily dance moves on the dance floor. I've seen him cut in the air, and it wasn't nice.
It wasn't.
Nice. I mean, no, he puts that. I admire the effort.
He's usually cutting the air because he's had too much brown sauce in his sandwiches, and the smell afterwards is a dreadful thing. So that's what he's cutting the air with.
I was trying to think back, because his brown sauce did he do a lot of dancing about in Gulliver's? I don't remember him dancing about in Gulliver's. I remember dancing to Ministry with him in a nightclub, and we went crazy, all two of us.
I think he used to go on the dance floor in the pier, I think. I seem to remember.
I'm just trying to think what he danced to. I don't remember. He's like a ninja, isn't he? He's like Inception style, gone in and erased himself from our memories. I don't know how he's done that, but he has. Because I remember him coming with us. I remember him leaving with us, but everything in between's a blur, which is a horrible roofie-based nightmare, which I don't want to remember. Or he's done it. His Inception does. I'm not sure how he's done it. He's a clever guy though.
Column A, column B, I think.
God help the past.
Then at number 60 is Monkey Gone to Heaven by the Pixies.
Now this is the one I remembered. I've been trying to remember there was a certain Pixies song that and I couldn't remember which. I was desperately trying to remember it, because I remember thinking, that's actually a really good track, and finally it's surfaced its way onto our transom, and it's a good song. That is
great song.
I like that one. Yeah.
Not the biggest hit, as you noted. That would be Debaser.
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
But yeah, but classic song.
Song.
I mean, and another in the long line of Quiet Loud songs that form the basis for grunge and so on. They're just massively influential at this point, and just loads of bands are going to be taken from these over the next few years. But Monkey Gone to Heaven, I remember hearing that on the chart show of all places when it first came out, and I was like, that's very good at the time. Number 63 is Feels So Good by Van Halen.
Yeah, well...
I'm just before you can obviously you're the Van Halen man, but I just want to know what the hell is that synth break into the first verse?
Yeah, none of it's good. It's not a good track. Yeah, it's not good. Even the beginning's got that kind of mushy synth sounding stuff at the start.
And when they all come floating across in the video, and then for no reason that scantily clad woman just floats across as well. It's like,
it's Sammy Hagar's era massively. This their version. There's a reason why they fell out with him, and they'd never played this live, ever, as far as I'm aware, and that's what I read. They'd never played it live, for good reasons, because it's crap.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Sound at the beginning, I'm like, ugh. No. Bring back the Van Halen that we all know and love, not this version. So there's some good songs that come out of their relationship with Sammy Hagar. This is not one of them.
No, it really wasn't. Number 70 is Hollow Heart by Birdland.
I don't know anything about them.
Well, I'm going to tell you, the only person I've ever known who has been into Birdland, I noticed here, was our very first singer for our first gig. I'm not going to name him, but you remember them. Think of his haircut and singing style, and it will make sense.
Well, it's not hard to remember his singing style, is it? It's one note continuously.
It was, but think of how he sort of punctuates stuff and things like that, and think of his blonde haircut, and then think of if you watch the video for this.
He sang like a 60s Cyberman. But yes, I remember him for that. I didn't know that's what Birdland's. And now I make the association. Yeah, completely. Yeah, totally.
He's the only person I've ever known who's been into him. Yeah.
Bless him. No, what he's doing now? I'll go and look in the cupboard where I trapped him for 10 years. It's still there.
Absolutely.
Joking, I haven't. Just to know. On all seriousness, I haven't trapped him in anywhere for 10 years.
It's 15. Number 80, Ordinary Lives by the Bee Gees.
They've never lived an ordinary life.
Okay.
It's a good song, actually. You know what? You can't argue with the Bee Gees. You're not going to necessarily love them. You might love them. You're not necessarily going to hate them, really. They're very good songwriters, the Bee Gees. Might not be everyone's cup of tea, but their songs are pretty good when well written, and they produce and write and do everything. Play every instrument, do all the production, do all the mixing. They do the lot. There's nothing they don't do. And so I don't know. It's not a great song by them, but it's of their genus, and their fans would really dig it. And can you say it's a Bee Gees song? So it's not going to be terrible, is it?
They've been transformed, though, into the epitome of the late 80s in this video.
Oh, haven't they just?
They're just everything about them is late 80s. Everything. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I think they spent a lot of time desperately trying to undo the popularity that they got from the 70s disco stuff that they did, because that wasn't really, that wasn't, they spent 10, 20 years trying to unpick everyone associating them with a very specific set of songs. I mean, I can't imagine how difficult that would be as an artist to have that album so ingrained in people's thoughts and those songs so ingrained in their minds that when you release something new, they just go, wow, do more of that stuff you did then. It's like, look, it's 20 years ago. We've changed. No.
Look, we're more 80s now. I'm not 70s.
We're ordinary people living ordinary lives. Hey, that's a good song, mate. Write that down. I have already. I thought it to you. Because they were telepathic. I don't know if you know that. They could speak to each other through telepathy.
They could.
They could, yeah. But only 6 words. It's handy, though.
Very handy. Very, very. Number 95, Nuclear Rocket by Wrathchild.
No.
This is a confusing band. What the hell are these? Are they metal? Are they punk? What's going on? I
couldn't figure it out. I wasn't even sure I found the right YouTube clip or not, because I just couldn't find much about that. So could be them. I don't know. It wasn't very good, though.
No, it wasn't. Finally, to end the month, and this one, number 98 is The Look by Roxette.
You've got The Look.
It was. Yeah, this is a huge, it becomes on to be a big hit. Gets number 7 in every year.
Hit.
Strangely, right, I've got this from the wiki. This was the 3rd single they released from the album Look Sharp, The Look. It became another top 10 single in their home country, obviously Sweden. Roxette was still unknown internationally. While studying in Sweden, an American exchange student from Minneapolis, Dean Cushman, heard The Look and bought a copy of Look Sharp home for the 1988 holiday break. He gave the album to Minneapolis radio station KDWB 101.3 FM. The station started playing The Look. Based on positive caller feedback, the song became very popular and quickly spread to other radio stations. It became a radio hit before any Roxette product had been commercially released or promoted in the US market. In fact, whoever they were with, I can't remember who it was who finally signed them, had actually rejected them and turned them down, saying they weren't very good. And it was only when this became popular they went back to him going, yeah, we will actually sign you then.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been eating their words, wouldn't they, when Pretty Woman came out with Must Have Been Love on it. Goodness me, that would have shot them through their feet. They're a Swedish band, amazing, I think. You're either going to like them or not. Don't judge them by their production. Judge them by Gun-Marie Fredriksson, such a beautiful and amazing person and singer, sadly now passed away. She had an amazing voice. She started out in a punk band, which I've got a link to a video called Strul, Swedish punk band. They're really good as well if you like that kind of thing. Very of its type. But her voice, I mean, come on, it's absolutely mind-blowing how good it is. And she sang and remained singing, even though she was really, really ill later in her life. And she remained singing and kept at it, even though it must have been really tough for her because she was fighting pain pretty much continuously and battled right to the end. So, and obviously, we've read the recent news as well of another amazing singer that's passed away recently as well, which is Sinead O'Connor. Yeah. So it's just great, amazing voices. And you can't think of The Look by Roxette without thinking of her voice. And then just think of Joyride, or you think of Must Have Been Love, and that is just her talent. Amazing stuff. I really like Roxette. I like that kind of Euro pop of that time as well. Just good singers always. It's always something. Amazing.
Yeah, there we go. And that's it. That's your singles for March 1989. We're going to go away, take a quick break. On that note, and we'll be back. We still have 5 more games to get through, so let's get on with it. We'll see you in a moment. And we are back for the final part this week. Let's get into them. 5 games. Graham, you're up first with Zamzara. Zamora. That's what I always think of.
The crossroads you seek.
Is that Zamzara?
Zamzara. Dinner for Wolf. $2.99. This was £2.99p. 91%. Wow, silver medal.
Indeed.
Or gold medal in budget land, isn't it? That.
Yeah.
Said that before. This is silver gold. Silver gold.
Absolutely. Silver plate.
It's published by Racket, which was obviously Hewson. Its producer was Paul Chamberlain. The coder was Yuka Tepanaki. Is it Tepanaki or Tepanaki?
I can never pronounce it.
Tapani Maki. I know it's the guy that made Netherworld and Octopolis. They weren't bad. Graphics are also by Yuka Tepanaki, and the title screen was Martin Godbeer, musician Charles Dean, aka the Maniacs of Noise, at the helm in the house. So nice title screen, and music will greet you here. This is pretty accomplished game on the C64, actually. And also, I ripped this music out and used it for a whole bunch of demos back in the day.
I recognised it.
You would do. The game then, quite simple, really. You've got to escape from a laboratory complex before a time bomb explodes. You have 15 minutes to battle your way through the rescue ship and get off the complex. Keep it simple, Tim. That's what we like. Keep it nice
absolutely.
And simple. No, we don't need to go crazy, do we? Nice and easy peasy, that. You've got very simple controls, and I'll sort of go through them as we play through the game. So I like that. You know what? Budget games should have budget missions, which is what that is. Just get out. Get out. Good stuff.
Pop it.
Now, let me tell you something about this. This is graphically impressive, this game.
Yeah, it is.
It's an impressive side-scrolling run-and-gun / shoot-'em-up. Now, we've seen games that are far more expensive with far worse graphics than this. So I think this is, graphically, we're at the top of the game here. This is good stuff, really good stuff. You start at a point A, and you've got to run and shoot your way across to point B, and then jump to the little exit. Kind of it, really. Collecting stuff along the way. It's not unlike an Alien fused Mario style game in some ways, in a weird way. It's less platform hoppy than Mario, shorter levels, but you are running from left to right, jumping up and down over things, shooting at things, and getting into an end goal and then jumping up to it. Sounds like Mario to me. Albeit that this is like a
with a gun,
with a gun, and with a sort of a Geiger version of Mario, which I really want to see. Just Nintendo. I know you don't listen to me very often when I come up with ideas. But come on, just Mario getting eaten by like a face hugger, like an egg. Mario, does have a lot of eggs in his life. Anyway, that's just a whole different game idea. Nintendo, just putting it out there.
Is this a Yoshi egg?
Anyway, so you control your alien-like creature with the joystick. What else would you control it with, you crazies? Fire shoots, up jumps, and up multiple times, jumps up higher. Nice. I like that. Not come across that before in this. Jump up once for jump up twice for jump slightly more. You can keep on jumping up. I like that. I don't know why I've not seen it before. I liked it.
You
can shoot missiles as well. Yes, you can shoot missiles if you collect them by pressing the space bar and then pressing your button. So you can shoot missiles as well, like a one-shot missile. And you can press a few other keys as well as you get them. I think looking at the instructions here, there's a rapid-fire, photon laser, nuclear laser, and web mine, which when you get them, you can press F1, F3, F5, and F7 to invoke them. And you can drop them, use them, do stuff with them.
It's just various forms of diagonal shots, bouncy diagonal shots.
Which is fine. It's just, shooty things in a game where you have to shoot and run and shoot. Okay, that's fine by me. The graphics here are really, really nicely drawn. Really lovely shaded sprites and backgrounds. They all look great. The controls are smooth and the game plays really well. I thought that's, it's all to its credit. The music is an exceptional piece as well. The Zamzara music, as I said, I've used it in a lot of demos, but it's a classic example of a really good slow burn. Then it goes into a really nice other piece. It's very, very nice indeed. So I quite like that as well. Again, who did I say it was? Charles Deanan, didn't I? That's right. So all good. Even the interstitial music is nice. When you get into the game, it's kind of the game window is kind of split into two. The bottom part in classic game of this type tradition is the UI, and at the top is the game area. Quite a big game area, very colourful, not dissimilar in size to the Thalamus game, which this kind of plays a little bit like. So Hawkeye, it's not dissimilar to that, only their UI was at the top, but it's that kind of idea. So your top part is made up of quite nice shaded graphics of platforms and things like that, with aliens of all different types and weirdnesses blocking thy path, which you must shoot and otherwise missile and get out of the way or avoid. At the bottom of your UI, which is kind of a semi-organic platform type thing with some indication of energy that you might have left, and some, obviously weapon indications, score, the number of men you've got left, and things like that. The key information down there with a nice sort of little graphic. It's quite nicely rendered, and the graphics are quite nicely drawn.
It's really nicely drawn.
The whole game is nicely drawn. I didn't see it on a CRT, but I imagine this looks really good on a CRT. You've got some really nice code base in here. The monsters and the enemies that are in it are varied. They're weird. They are what they are, weird. But they're really nice. All of them have got this nice shaded effect. They all look like they're part of the same game. So it's all nicely done. Again, we've got some medium res going on here, but very nicely used colour schemes here. Really cleverly done. And considering it's got quite a limited palette, it actually feels like it's got a lot more colours on display than it does because of the cleverness of the shading. The fact that you're moving around fast, because this game controls really nicely and fast, everything's responsive. There's a lot to like there, isn't there? That's quite a lot good. Good music, great game, simple to play, really nice graphics. It's hard to believe this is a budget game because it's just so accomplished. They've done this kind of thing before with these mega accomplished budget games, Racket. And this is really, this is a classic example of a budget game that's really giving some of the full price ones a real showcase of what the computer is both capable of in the right hands. But also, you don't have to charge silly money for this. Take note, a lot of the games in this particular episode, with the exception maybe of Batman, have been charging sky-high prices for very average to rubbish games with not much graphically about them. So this one is charging budget money for really, really good graphics, really great music. It's top-form production, this, and I really, really like it. So, yeah, brilliant shaded graphics. The alien looks great. Controls really nice. Dead simple game idea. Get from A to B. It's great. Really easy to pick up and get straight into. You're not faffing about with lots of silly interstitial bits. It might be impossible to do because it is quite hard, without a doubt. But you know what? The levels are over with quite quickly, and there's plenty of them, and they're all really varied, and they change a lot. So it's not like you go in from one where it might have the same color scheme, but the layout, the monsters, and everything's going to be completely different, and the color scheme will change. It's doing a lot of stuff for £3, but it is £3. What's not to like about that? Give this higher rating. Zap, 91. Why are you selling a little bit short? Give it the 95s or something like that. This is a really great budget game. This is much better than some of the other rubbish we've had. Put this side by side with Better Dead than Alien. That was £10 for an average rubbish shoot 'em up. You gave that 66%. Why are you only giving this the short order? This is a great game. I know it's a sizzler, a silver medal rather, a budget gold. Why not give it what it deserves, which is, I think, is a really good pat on the back. Well done, Racket, because that's a great game. I really liked it. And you?
Yeah, really good run and gun sci-fi shooter, this. Really nicely drawn and shaded visuals, snappy controls, interesting super weapons. I don't know if you could replenish them, so I kept running out, which then made progression really difficult. So I'm not sure if I missed something or whether there's some way of getting...
you can replenish them, you can.
All right, I must have missed them, don't know how. I thought, on occasion, some of the level design is a little bit cheap, like enemy placements right at the start of levels just killing you if you can't manage the sort of floaty up thing. So there's a couple of them where I'd get there and it'd be like that one that sort of like a tap where it'd fire and like the little things would bounce along and just trap you in a thing, and you'd be like, oh, for God's sake, they just drain all your energy, immediately dead. But, it is what it is. It's a budget game and it's hard. But for £3, made primarily music aside by one person, this is really, extremely impressive. I really like the animation of the main character. It's almost, too fast, but in a genre where we've moaned about sluggishness, it feels really good to control. There's a really snappishness to it, which I really liked. Yeah, I can't really complain about this, and the score maybe higher, like you said. Reminded me a bit of, we've not had it yet, but we'll come down the line, something like Turrican, as well as a little bit like that. But also as well, you mentioned Mario, but my mind went to the sort of flat running levels of Metroid. When you're running left to right and you're blasting and you're shooting stuff rather than sort of climbing vertical stuff. And that I was really reminded of that in this, with the sort of enemies floating about and things like that. So no, this is an excellent thing. That UI design is really nice, considering what we've just seen in Better Dead Than Alien with that.
Yep,
that thing there. There's a really, really cohesive, clever design here, and the use of color on different levels and the way it's just a really,
and all
really
done
good
by
budget.
one guy. Remember, one guy. I think he's sadly passed away as well now. The guy.
Yeah, he has.
One person made that. Just shows you, doesn't it?
Really, very, very good game. Enjoyed my time with it.
Go and try it. Go try Zamzara.
Zamzara. We like it. Zamora. Let's move on. Hopefully we'll like the next one. And our next one, well, what do we have here? This is a question of sport, Graham. This is another attempt to convert a very successful British TV quiz show to the computer market in the form of a question of sport by Elite. For those who don't know, I don't know how popular question of sport is around the world. Maybe I'll just, question of sport is known. Well, it's now just known. It's just question of sport now. They've dropped the A.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's a British television sports quiz show produced and broadcast by the BBC. It's the world's longest-running TV sports quiz. Following a pilot episode, it's still going. Following a pilot episode in December 1968 that was broadcast only in the north of England, the series has run since 1970, except for 1973 and 1978.
Oh, maybe it's a strike or something.
Maybe, and celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2020. So still going.
Wow.
So it's been a mainstay on British TV for longer than I have been alive, and it's still going strong. There you go. So the show itself is like a really early precursor of a panel-style quiz that we get. We've seen loads, Mock the Weeks and all those kind of things. This is probably one of your earliest versions of that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Where you got two regular captains on either side. They're joined, in this case of this, they're joined by two sports personalities each. In the 80s, I don't know if it. I don't know if it still does. I haven't watched it for years. The show consisted of 7 rounds, I think it was. These being the picture board round, where contestants pick a random number from 1 to 12 on a board and had to name the sports person revealed. Round 2 is a question based on the contestant's sport, usually after being shown a video of said sport. So if you're a footballer, you'd get they'd show a clip of a goal and who put the ball through and who scored it, so you'd have to answer them. Next up was the mystery guest round, where a video was shown of a sports person, but their identity was never revealed and the teams had to guess who it was, from really, really obscure angles, like a shot of their nose and
really close up,
and things like that. And it'd be and you had to guess who it was, and they'd be doing something really odd, like cooking beans or something. Whatever. Round 4 was home and away, where each team member could choose home to answer a question on their own sport for 1 point, or away to answer a question on a random sport for 2 points. Round 5 is what happened next, where teams are shown a clip of a piece of sport and have to guess what happened next. A pigeon flew into the tennis player or something. Round 6 was the quickfire round, where the teams had to answer as many questions as they could in a minute. And finally, it was back to the picture board round for the rest of the images to be revealed. That was the show. Now to the game. At the time as well, it had Bill Beaumont and Ian Botham at this point, 1989, as the team captains. Bill Beaumont was captain 15 years, Bill Beaumont.
Yeah, he was, He's still there.
He won't leave. Although my memories of it was Bill Beaumont and Emily Hughes. That was my era. Now to the game. So this was another one, £14.95 on tape.
Ouch.
Bit pricey.
Very
this.
Pricey.
And was coded by Richard Underhill, with visuals by Steve Beverly and sound by Mark Cooksey. When the game loads, you're asked to pick a 1 or 2 player game. Then you pick what your speciality is from a grid with icons of all the different sports. And then the other 2 people you want on your team. I think you pick a captain as well, but I don't think you do. No, you just pick a speciality, and then you pick 2 other people. So it's done on a grid with a series of quite well-drawn character shots. They may be sports people. I wasn't sure. I didn't recognise any of them.
They were, I think.
I think so, but I couldn't. It might have been Terry Butcher, someone. I don't know.
Yeah.
Once this is done, David Coleman, who was the host of the show at the time, asks which bank of questions you want to play, and there are 5 sets to choose from to load in. So you've got 5 different lots of questions, and then it will load them in. It's on with the game. Coleman. So the game is presented thus. Coleman is in the centre of the screen, and there's kind of like this sort of, I don't know, the panel is on either side, but you can see this sort of caricature pictures. So the character pictures on either side, just kind of sort of representing the sort of the layout of the TV studio, I guess. At the top, in a scrolling speech bubble, he will ask questions, and the questions will appear in a scrolling speech bubble near the top. Once done, you get a series of multiple choice answers will appear, and then you get like a timer, which is a round circle with it, which will slowly deplete. Will quickly deplete, actually, and you have to answer before it does. So you've got to pick out one of the 4, move your joystick up and down, press fire. If you get it right, well done, you get the points. If you get it wrong, it's incorrect, and the other team gets a chance to answer it for a bonus go. Did you play this one player? I presume you did.
Yeah.
Did it work for you, or
no.
did it? You have to sort of take the part of the other team.
Blatantly ignored my player one, even though I'd selected player one, and it chose the 2 players.
Yeah, exactly.
On the opposing team,
and chose
it went
the picture rounds and stuff, but you didn't do any answers.
Yeah, it was really weird. I don't know if that's
really
a bug.
Odd. I don't know. So there are only 6 of the 7 rounds from the show here, and I'll tell you, and I'll go through them. They're the picture board round, where the pictures have been replaced by questions.
Right.
So that's a bit odd. Then you've got the mystery personality. There's no picture. No video, just some clues of who it is. Again, this is odd. Next up is Home or Away. At least that's, that feels like the show, because you get a football question or something, or if you pick football, whatever it is. The 4th round is What Happened Next. And this is weird, because you get obviously there's no video again, but you just get a description of something. David Coleman sort of says something, it scrolls across, and then the answers, usually you get multiple choice answers at the top. Here, they're actually in the scrolling point, so it says, what happened next? Is it A, this happened? Is it B, this happened? C? And then at the top, it just says pick A, B, C, or D. So you've kind of got to remember what the things were. Really weird. I don't know why it flips around for that. Round 5 is the quickfire round. Didn't really feel like a quickfire round at all, as the questions are quite slow to appear. And there's no timer on screen, so you don't know how long you've got left. And lastly, we have the picture board again, with no pictures and just questions. This gets a lot wrong.
Yeah, just a bit.
If you haven't sort of guessed that from the descriptions of what you get. Whilst the names of the round are the same, bar Home and Away, none of them are like the show. And this becomes essentially just a sports trivia game. The music on the title screen is not from the show. So the classic tune, dun, 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 everyone knows tune, ain't from that. So it's just a rather bland, Matt Cooksey piece. The pace of the game is also slow. Questions take a while to appear, and once done, you just make a simple statement. And once you've done, it just makes a simple statement of who won and lost, and then it's back to the beginning. And I couldn't see any way to change teams or questions without loading the whole thing again. It just says to try again, press fire. And I did, and it was back at the start of the game with the same questions. It was like, I'd like to go back to the title screen and maybe pick a different team and stuff and all that lot. No, you can't have any of that. Shut up. I guess the presentation of having the heads on either side of the screen is an attempt, as I said, to mimic the layout of the TV studio, but it all looks boring. It's boring. There's no animations. And when so much of the show is picture-based or video-based, this seems a very poor fit for the C64, because it just simply can't do that. The pictures are going to be horrible. There'd probably be that Microprose wrestling thing we saw, the Microsoft wrestling thing. There'd be horrible digitized horribleness, which wouldn't be very good. They can't run videos. So what's the point in doing this? You've just basically reduced Question of Sport to a sports trivia show. So no, I didn't particularly like this. Now, Interestingly, I'm just going to sort of a little detour here, because whilst looking into this, as we do before we do it, Elite will also go on to release the game Mike Reed's Computer Pop Quiz, which is never reviewed in Zap. Comes out in the next few months. So it's not one we're going to actually get to look at. However, bar some changes to contestants, it's the exact same game and format as this. It's just music questions. It's just the sports questions have been replaced by music questions. Once again, programmed by Richard Underhill. Even the small jingles and sound effects in the games are the same, so I played them both. Even the rounds are the same. I think there's one that are different. Like the jukebox round at the beginning, it's like you pick a category thing and it'll ask you a question. It's exactly the same. Now, I get it that the TV show may have followed the exact same format of A Question of Sport. It was a recognised format, so it might have done something. My thought is, though, someone just decided to draw some new visuals for a quick reskin and release it for $10 for a quick book. I think that's what's happened here. My money's on the latter. But interestingly, we're never going to get to look at that because it's not reviewed in Zap. But there you go. If you want to play this with music questions instead of sports questions, go find Mike Reed's Pop Quiz, whatever it is. Anyway, A Question of Sport, it's not a good version of the show because so much of it is missing. So no, not one to go back to. I can't recommend this, not for sure. It's not a good version. What did it get 50%? That's being generous because it's not A Question of Sport. It's a sports trivia game. with an attempt to have the accoutrements somewhere around the edges of A Question of Sport. So no, I didn't like this. What about you?
No, same. I don't like these kind of things anyway. It felt like a bit cheap around the edges, this, for crazy money. Elite sort of milking the teat of this game massively.
Mm-hmm.
Not by not offering much, I have to say. There's not a lot of effort gone into this. It feels very like someone just threw it together, and there's not a lot of due care and attention in any of it, really. Maybe for the TV show fans, for completists out there who want to do this, you'd get any enjoyment from it, really. The whole point of A Question of Sport is that you've got sports personalities taking part in a quiz.
Yeah.
If you're playing it and you're not a sports personality and you're answering the questions for them, it's not a question of sport. It doesn't work, does it? It makes no sense to do that.
Nope.
And like you said, I chose one player, and for some reason it decided it was going to be two. Questions are great if you know anything about sports trivia. Maybe I don't, so it's just a total switch off for me. I had a look at the Mike Reid game reskin, just rip off at 15 quid for essentially the same thing with slight variation of faces.
I think that one was only a tenner, the Mike Reid one. But even so, it's still a rip-off.
It's a rip-off for what it is. They could have just brought in some kind of downloadable thing for the Question of Sport game and converted it, couldn't they, or something? I don't know. It all felt cheap, yet not cheap, and I don't think it was very good. It's certainly not going to be anything. I'm not a big fan of Question of Sport. Oddly, though, I do like the blatant Sky version of it, which is a League of Their Own, which I quite like.
Well, that's the thing. The thing with this game that it so massively misses, apart from all the rounds being wrong, is that these panel shows work because of the panels and because of the interactions between the different people on them, the captains who, make everyone feel at ease, and they've been there a while and they have jokes and they have a laugh and all that goes on. Mock the Week. What was the music one that they had? Never mind the Buzzcocks.
Never mind the Buzzcocks, yeah.
All these kind of shows, Would I Lie to You?
Panel shows,
8 out of 10 cats. The panel quiz show sort of thing, but the enjoyment comes from not in the questions being asked; it's in the interactions between the panel.
Exactly.
And when you remove that element, well, what you've got is a sports trivia game.
Yeah. If you're scrolling the right and across as well, I'm just going to say this: it's not very inclusive for a game of this type.
No, it's not.
Not everyone can read at that speed. Not everyone can see it like that. You've just you're rolling out huge chunks of an audience for that. It's just not very nice. All in all, the whole thing not very good.
No, it's not very good. Let's move on quickly. Hopefully, the next one will be better. Graham, that's over to you. It's time for you to head to the big top and tell us all about Circus Games.
£10, £9.95, another whopper, but it got 41%. Something tells me the circus is in town, but it's not as much fun as people thought. This is published by Tynesoft. Who else is going to do this? Tynesoft. Who else? Design was Subway software, apparently, coded by Michael Headley. That's Headley. And graphics are Michael J. Landreth doing the Landreth walk. Oi! I bet he gets that a lot. Sorry, Michael. Kevin Preston and David Mowbray, who makes a mean pork pie. Doesn't really. Maybe he does, I don't know. The musician here is Nick Torkington. I like that name, and I can't really explain why.
Torkington.
I give him a good talking to. Just stop me doing stupid jokes like that. Anyway, right, so this is a multi-event game based around the circus.
It is. It really is.
Did anyone even want this? Who asked for this? No one. No one wanted this.
No one.
Because somebody's gone, well, we've done Summer Olympiad, we've done Winter Olympiad, so we've got that kind of covered. Someone's already done the cavemen beating each other, we got that. Someone's done it's a knockout, we've had that. Circus! Nobody's done bloody circuses! I don't believe it! And there's a reason why they didn't. There's a reason, and this game is the reason. Now, this game has all the bells and whistles. It looks the part on the whole, certainly in terms of the getting into it. And there is an American version of this as well, which we'll talk about, which isn't quite as good in those states.
Oh,
but,
dear.
hey-ho. So this is one of those multi-format, multi-games. On offer, you have such delights as tiger training. Ooh. Trapeze. Ah. Tightrope. Eee. Trick riding. Or international competition, which is kind of all of them, all of the above. So you can choose these either individually. Now, was it me, or once you selected these, that was it? You selected Tiger Training, there is no way out.
Yeah.
I couldn't get out of it, so I had to go actually reload the game to look at any of the others, which is a bit daft. So you get a nice title screen. You choose the number of players, of which there can be 4 maximum, I think, here. You can give them names. Choose their cities for reasons. You just can. And then you can sort of go and play through the events. So I played said events. They range in quality, and the graphics, and I'll tell you what, they all suffer from the same problem, so I'm going to just discuss the problem with them all. They all have nice graphics on the whole, most of them, with the exception of the tiger training, which is a bit crap compared to the others. But the trapeze has got quite nice animation and graphics in the way that it operates. The tightrope walk, which is kind of a walk across a tightrope, and you've got a kind of a view of an overhead view of the tightrope on the right. That kind of looks nice. The trick riding does look good. You've got parallax scrolling, well animated horse, all that kind of stuff. That's all good. But this problem of this game is twofold. Number one, these events might look exciting, but they're really boring.
Yep.
And that's because the way they've chosen to make the controls on them suffers from what can only be described as the Tynesoft curse. And that Tynesoft curse is that they're borderline uncontrollable and unenjoyable at the same time. You're not going to get any enjoyment out of this. So the tiger training, for example, you've got a chair in one hand and a whip in the other. What looked like to me like giant-sized tic-tacs float around on the screen with lines going backwards and forwards in kind of graphic tradition. And you kind of whip them and then you'll get mauled. Yeah. Because you won't know what you're doing. So you just get mauled. Yeah. And then you'll come back again for another go and you might hit a tiger in the face, which reverses its direction. As well it might if you did that. Or if you're probably in reality, if you go around waving sticks at tigers, they're going to just tear you to shreds. And that's what happens repeatedly. So this is not really tiger training in as much as this is more you're standing there with a chair getting eaten repeatedly.
Tiger feeding.
It's tiger feeding, yeah. And there's no enjoyment to be had in that. And that's all there is to that. I could not get a handle. And I've got the manual, and the manual does explain as best it can all the various nuances of the controls and how to get it. But it's not intuitive enough.
Nope.
And now we've said this time and time and time again about these kind of multi-event games. If you're not making your controls simple, and the Caveman Olympics was a great example of where they took note of this advice, retroactively, of course, because we used a time machine and everything. They took note of the advice, and that advice is simple. If you want people to play and get into these games, make the controls dead straightforward and easy. So if I've got things running across the screen and I've got a chair in one hand and a whip in the other, make it so that I either do press the button and press up to do a thing, or to the right and do a thing, and make something happen on the back of that. But that's not. You don't really know what's happening. All you just see is tiger going left and right. I'm not sure what I was supposed to do with them. You meant to actually herd them into the center thing, but I didn't get that from this.
No,
and nor could I ever do it. So I just end up. And that's the problem with every single event here. You'll get to the trapeze. You'll start with the trapeze, and obviously you know what a trapeze is, and you know that you're going to have to go climb all up. You start at the top, on top of the trapeze pole, I guess you call that. You jump onto the swingy trapeze thing, and then you're going to have to do something. Do you know what I did? I did a spectacular flying leap into the midair and just crashed and just missed completely, and just I was like that. And I imagine everyone going, ooh, like that when I landed in a crumpled bone heap. And I just did that repeatedly. So this isn't a trapeze. I was just falling off something with great elaboration because I couldn't get a handle of the controls. I could swing backwards and forwards, I think, but I'm not sure if it was just doing that or whether my pathetic attempts at trying to steer the sort of the speed of this in some way were doing anything or not. And then when I pressed the button to do the thing, he did this really elaborate flippy flappy flew. I didn't mean to do that, nor did I understand what I was doing, and then he just flew off. Okay. Now, as much as I would pay good money to watch that happen in a circus for cruel reasons that probably say a lot about my personality type, it's not fun to repeatedly do that. Because one thing I'll tell you about these games, AD, which I've discovered over the time of playing this podcast, if it's not fun within the first 10 seconds, it's never going to be.
Nope.
With these events. Epics, the reason that Summer Games 1 and 2 and these early Epics games mastered this is because they knew that. They knew that if you're not into this game, if you're not controlling this game and into the race very quickly, you're going to switch this off because it's not interesting. And then to add the little funny quirks, that makes it, that's just rounds the edges off on what is, quite interesting stuff. They don't do any of that here. This felt like it was actually a serious attempt at a circus game. Like the whole point of a circus game, I'd have thought, would have been to have fun. No clowns in sight, no funny stuff.
Yeah,
and none of that. You get to the tightrope, and it's quite tense. I mean, obviously, but all you're really going to do in this is walk out about maybe a centimetre, maybe more, and go, yeah. No matter what you do with that joystick, he will fall off that tightrope. No matter what you do, there's no way you're getting from the one side of that tightrope to the other. It doesn't help that you're looking at the screen and it breaks your eye brain control. Because on the right-hand side of the screen, under your right eye, you've got top-down view. And up is down, up is down, and down is up. And on the right, you've got like a orthographic crew. Exactly.
So the up was up, left was left, right was right.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
So it literally breaks your brain so you find yourself looking at one thing or the other, and neither of those things make sense. So it's just then you'll go, oh, try again. Try again.
And the 10-second roll. Two people pop up, go, naught. And you're like,
yeah, you're like, oh. That's so demoralising. I don't want to do tightrope anymore.
I broke every bone in my body for that naught.
Yeah. So I've just proved to myself that I'm neither a tiger trainer, a trapeze artist, or a tightrope walker. Okay, trick riding. Maybe that's my bag. That's my thing. No, it's not. I'll grant that a horse came running on with a person on it. There's no doubt about that. And the parallax scrolling, ooh, that looks quite nice. Did I manage to do anything? No. Did I fall off that horse? Yes, a lot. I just ran off.
I managed to do some stuff.
Oh, I stood up on it.
Yeah.
But and then it was like, what else do I do? What am I supposed to be doing?
I don't know.
Is anyone grading this? Am I just running through a circus on a horse for no reason? Is anyone paying any attention to what I'm doing? I'm like, it just felt like it was a bit all for nothing. And I tell you what, this must be the world's biggest circus. That horse was running at full pelt for what felt like forever. That circus tent must be about 10 miles long because horses can run pretty fast. They're a fast old animal when they get going.
Yeah.
No, it's all well animated and everything else, but you cannot make this game do the things you need it to do in any meaningful way. That's a massive problem for a game that's based on your ability to do those things. Make the control simple. The idea of balancing something is just, you've got left and right. You push forward to go forward, and left and right is your balance, and you have to just, do slight adjustments. We've seen it on a number of different games where they've done something like that. It's not difficult to do. The trick riding stuff, follow the examples that have been set for you by the big players in this field, your Epixes and stuff. You don't have to try that hard. And they did this with some of their own Olympiad games. They over-egg their pudding, trying to make it, more control, a bit more. No, it's a simulation of the circus. No one's ever said that. No one wanted that. Make a circus game and make it fun. When you play The Secret of Monkey Island on the Amiga, and at one point you go into a circus stop and you're fired out of a cannon, that's all fun and hilarious. It's funny. Make it like that. Don't make it like this. Where is the cannon firing in? Where's the clowns and where's all that stuff? No.
Yeah.
No. This misses the mark for me. This is the UK version or the Euro version, and it misses the mark for me. So I didn't get anywhere in anything, and it looked okay. Graphics and some of the scene setting graphics are quite nice, and they do look the colours of the circus. No problem with that.
Yeah,
everything else is a misfire. Now let's go to the really odd US version.
Do we have to?
I'm not even. Well, I'm not going to go too far into it. I'm just going to say because they didn't look at it in Zapped, so I'm only looking at it because it's just there is.
It's just there, yeah.
It was published by something called Key Punch Software. That's what you'll be doing when you see this game anyway. So it's ironic that they called it that. It was coded by Adam Trudianic and Laszlo Horvath. The graphics are by Szaba Azasi, and the musician was Nick Torkington again. Good old Nick Torkington.
Yay.
Now, the game, it's not the same as the UK one, graphically. It's really weird and bitty. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't get that far into it because it bugged out massively as well. I had major problems trying to get this to run either on NTSC or PAL. When it loaded up, the intro was NTSC, so I switched it to NTSC mode. The game was PAL, so I put it back into PAL mode, and it didn't quite work, and it was flickering and stuttering all the way. The only bit I got to view was the kind of, and it was quite nice. The spotlights landed on the sort of the what do they call the guy that runs the circus? The main guy, what's it called? The ringmaster. Focused on the ringmaster. He appeared in like a top hat. I thought for a minute, is it Manimal? Because he looked a bit like that. But he appeared, walked into the middle, and then all the flickering and the games. I never got far enough into the game. I looked at a few screens of it because I'm not going to go say too far into it. It looked like it was an absolute mess. All the reviews say it was awful, terrible thing. It should not be.
No.
So no matter which way you look at it, no matter which version of this you play, no matter which Nick Torkington soundtrack you're listening to, circus games there may be, but circus fun it ain't. And it's just a bit of a nightmare to control with some pretty graphics thrown in for good measure. But £10 for this, nah, it got 41% in Zap. I'd have given it way less than that for me because I don't think it works as a game very well. What fun is it if you can't control it? Have you not learned this yet, Tynesoft? Shame on you really for that. What did you think?
Yeah, it's not a good multi-event game at all. This is the events are dull, really tricky to control, or know if you're doing, or more importantly, know if you're doing anything right.
Yep.
Like you said, that trapeze one. Am I going faster? Am I supposed to? When am I supposed to let go? Happening? What's going on? The most fun I had with this, exactly what you had, was sending my trapeze artist spinning, always spinning off the bottom of the screen, which made me laugh.
Yes.
It's like,
ooh, there he goes. Oh,
spinning, always spinning.
Always so spinny.
Some of the animations are okay, the horse and the horse riding bit, but the various tunes and intros and the general lack of feedback and randomness of the events. What the hell are you supposed to do in the tiger training bit? I was just whipping them, mauled. I whipped, so they got the tic tac filled up with red, got mauled. What's going on? This just had me reaching for the off switch. Only 4 events too. Only 4.
Yep.
Poor.
Yep. It's not a good circus, even for circus standards.
No, I mean, you could have had anything. You could have had throwing pies at like a whack-a-mole type thing, throwing pies at clowns who stick the faces out, and a little bit of fun and stuff like that. Anything, anything but this. I don't know. As for the horror, that is the US game with the same name. It looked bad in 1985, let alone in the here and now of 1988-99. The loading screen, title screen of that Circus Games for the US one, that character is just nightmare inducing. It reminded me. It put me in mind of that hand thing.
It is, yeah. It's Trace and John, yeah. It is.
Trace and John, yeah. It put me in mind of that. And then when the Ringmaster came out and it's doing that thing, I was like, there's some. Again, this is one of those games. We said it about that really weird one years ago, Necromancer. That you're like, there's something odd about this. If I play this too long, then I'm going to lose something, like a part of my soul.
Exactly. Can I just say, by the way, on that screen, and I'm not going to make any elaborations. I'm just going to say spotlights are not brown. Okay, they generally are white. Just saying. Okay, and that's it. I'm not going to say any more about it.
It's just awful. The controls. Did you try and control the unicycle?
I couldn't get it to control anything. It was all over the place. I mean, I was running around at one point with the seal. I think they were meant to be seals.
Yeah, and some monkeys are trying to chase and you're trying to throw a ball at them.
I mean, have you seen that movie? I think it's called Life Force. They look like the creature out of that. Like three of them. I'm like, that was difficult to deal with in one of them. Never mind three of the damn things.
This was a nightmare of a thing.
Did you see the monkey, by the way? The monkeys made me laugh as well in that. Anyway, for novelty value, you might want to check it out, but I wouldn't.
No, because it's dreadful. Or pair of horrors. No good Circus Games is all I took from this pair of horrors. Awful stuff. Ugh. That American one left a stain on me.
Yes.
Let's move along quickly. Let's leave that circus and move into our next one.
I think we should.
And our next one, well, this is a biggie. This is Afterburner. Afterburner. Or should it be Afterburner 2?
Yeah.
Okay. It is. It's finally here for the C64. It's got a whopping 17%. Oh, no. Is this another contender for our crapcade conversion category at the end of the year? Could be, but we'll see. Anyway, lots to talk about here. I'll try to keep it brief, though. So Afterburner, it's another Yu Suzuki arcade game based on the Sega X board technology that we also saw powering the recent Thunderblade in the arcades that we kind of spoke about last time. So I'm not going to go too much into what that is. Powerful thing at the time. Heavily influenced by Top Gun, this, just a bit, although it had originally been planned as a more...
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Yeah, but it had originally been planned as a more steampunk-style game based on the film Laputa, Castle in the Sky, directed by Hayao Miyazaki, which was the first film from Studio Ghibli. That was the original plan for this. But when Yu Suzuki saw Top Gun, it was like, no, we're going to make it. You fly around with them. It was changed to be more attractive to a worldwide audience after the success of Top Gun and place you in control of an F-14 Tomcat as you fly into the screen and blast anything that comes your way. It's an evolution of games like Space Harrier, as Sega's arcade throws and scales multiple sprites and rotates. You spin around this, around the screen. And this was also housed, like those games, like Thunderblade was, I think, and like Space Harrier was, in a massive sit-in arcade cabinet that threw you about as it twisted and rotated as you played it. It was released in 1987, 50p a go, was once again a huge hit for Sega. I'm not going to go into stats. It was massive and was followed later that year by the revision Afterburner 2. It wasn't really a sequel. It was more of a revision because all it did was added a few new stages and the ability to speed up and slow down. But aside from that, it was pretty much the same game. And it is that version that most of the home console versions were built from. And that includes this European version of Afterburner on the C64. But interestingly, not the US version, which I will speak of later. So here we are at the hands of Activision. And this was developed by Delali Software. They'd done Biggles, Mean Streak, and Yogi Bear before this, so hardly a go-to developer for a massive task like this, I would have thought. Produced by Software Studios, who you may remember from such delights as Enduro Racer, Championship Sprint, Explorer, Galactic Games, Karnov, and Predator. And also it's produced by Jonathan Dean. It's got graphics by Focus, whoever that is, a title screen by Nick, and music from Adam Gilmore. So when the game loads, we get a variant of the sort of animated balls from the title screen in the arcade, like and an approximation of the Afterburner logo. Okay, it's a C64 version of the Afterburner 2 logo. Indeed, the balls have two on them in Roman numerals, So this is clearly Afterburner 2 in all but the release name, because it's just Afterburner. So weird. I suppose they couldn't release Afterburner. It couldn't call it Afterburner 2 because everybody would be like, where's Afterburner? So the release is called Afterburner, but this is Afterburner 2, and it is going to get anyway. We also get treated to the UI, because like that game we played earlier, it's omnipresent to all screens. The music playing is okay as well. It's not brilliant, certainly passable. Pressing fire asks if you want music or sound effects. Choose music, as the in-game tunes are actually decent renditions of the arcade tunes, I thought, and the sound effects are rubbish. So don't listen to them, just put the music on. And then you're into the first level loading. So this is a multi-load game. Every level is a separate load. As I said, the UI takes up the top and bottom of the screen. And at the top, you get your score, how many planes you've hit, and what stage you're on. There's 2 empty squares in the top left and right as well, but they'll come into it a little bit later. At the bottom, you get a speed gauge and the number of lives represented by little plane icons. I think you get 8, including the starting one. In the middle, it's empty, but it's the lock-on indicator for when your missiles lock on. And at the bottom right is the number of missiles you have left. The game takes place in a window in the center of the screen and starts with you taking off from the deck of the Sega Enterprise airship carrier. It's not that great to look at. First impressions are not great either.
It's not, no.
No, your plane it's an okay version of the arcade plane. It's a C64 version of the arcade game, but you fire automatically, so you always fire. But you fire character bullets that colour everything around them. So as they go over the landscape, they've got the colour of blue around them, because obviously that's the sky bit. But it's a bit, I don't like that very much, but it is what it is. And unfortunately, they don't go in a straight line. Weirdly, they kind of curve in the third or fourth scale of them before coming back into the middle. It's kind of weird. They kind of go out to the right and then back in. Very odd.
Yeah.
I'm also, at this point, you're supposed to be flying over the ocean. I'm not sure what the blue things are on the sea that you're flying over. There's just these big balls of something, and they're like nothing I've ever seen on the ocean. I don't know what they're supposed to be. Anyway, eventually some distant black dots will appear, and you can shoot them with your ever-present machine gun, or move your cursor over them, because that's essentially what you control. You control a cursor that you move around, and the plane sort of follows after that. And once you move your cursor over one of these black dots, it will lock on. It will say lock on at the bottom. You can press the fire button to release a missile at them that will fly towards them with a sort of scaled sort of smoke trail and hit one and blow it up. After some time, they will fire at you like really fast if you just get out of the way. You need to dodge their fire, and then you repeat this, and they'll at some point fly towards you, and this will go on until the level ends, where you get your bonus score for how many missiles you have left, and it's on to the next level, which is yellow and brown. For some reason, at the start of the third level, you get to refuel right at the beginning as a giant plane lowers in front of you, and then again it's more of the same. It's Afterburner. This is Afterburner. You fly a plane into the screen and you shoot shit. That's it. Every now and then a missile will come from behind you, and indicating the top corners will flash to let you know. I think you need to do a barrel roll, or just try and escape from it, or speed up a little bit to try and avoid it by flicking the joystick back and forth from left to right. And that's it, really. Now, okay, there are problems. It doesn't look graphically great. It's twitchy and it's glitchy. No, it's not glitchy. It's twitchy and it's a bit all over the place. But this version does have all 23 stages of the arcade, which is, good to see. It's even got the interstitial stages where you, like I said, where you refuel. It's also got the interstitial stages where you land and refuel and restock missiles. And the biker from Super Hang-On drives off under you. Don't really look much like the biker from Super Hang-On. Looks more of a blocky thing. And the people and trucks don't look like people and trucks, but it's there. So everything that is in the arcade version is here. Okay, so I think for that alone, and we've seen some arcade games, there's a lot of arcade conversions where they've not managed to fit it all in, they've not done it all. I think you've got to give it some credit, because it would have been easy for them to just do like 10 levels and be done with it, knock out the interstitial bits and just be done with it. It's even got the canyon levels where you fly through the canyon and the big tall sort of canyon bits, although the frame rate does take a bit of a dive during those. So, so that's what it is. I mean, this is Afterburner, the arcade game on the C64. It's all there in that respect. And it got 17%. I personally think that's a bit harsh. I'm going to be honest. I mean, it's Afterburner 2. It's not horrific. It's what they could do to try and do a look and feel the arcade monster that it's trying to emulate. It's not got, okay, we'll come to the American version in a bit, but what we said about Thunderblade, I think that's a better port, but I think it's maybe there's not as much to fit in. I know it all did it in a single load. There's 23 levels here. I think some ports are just beyond the machine trying to cram in. There was a thing I read about how they were struggling doing not just the sprite scaling, but the sprite rotating for when you're spinning round. So this does that. I mean, it does it. Trying to fit all that into a 1 megahertz machine from 1982, you're onto a thankless task. I think this is one of those. So whilst it's not brilliant. It's not even particularly good. I didn't hate this, and I found this is exactly what I thought a port of Afterburner 2 is going to be like on the C64. What I expected is what I got, because what I was expecting was exactly this. And so when I think about the horrors of Guerrilla War, or I think about the horrors of, what was the other crap one? Double Dragon. Yeah. Having seen versions that they could have done around them, they're horrific. This is exactly, you're never going to get this, ever. It's just not going to work. However, there's the US version to deal with, which seems to be a really strange thing all of its own. Handled by Mindscape, it was coded by Scott L. Blum and Darren Stubbington. It's got a great title screen piece of music by Jerome Tell.
It does.
Cracking. It's the same tune as the UK version, but it's a much better version, because obviously Jerome Tell is clearly a much better handler of the 64. I will say but there's no music in the rest of the game. So give Adam Gilmore credit. He's done passable versions of the arcade tunes in the UK version, and they're fine, and no problem with them. From the start, the visuals on this are much nicer. There's a far better plane and a better sense of 3D in this. I don't know if it was just my version, because I watched the version on YouTube, but I also play in this. The version I was playing, my plane had like a really sort of slight judder to it. I don't know if you had that as well on your version. No. Had a really slight judder to it. It gave it a kind of a weird sort of really cool sort of speed weird thing. I don't know whether I was playing it the wrong mode, PAL or NTSC or whatever, but it's kind of weird. But kind of really worked. I was like, that's cool. That's a cool effect. Obviously not meant to be, but was a cool effect. The aircraft carrier that you take off from is better realised, and the 3D effect is faster and more effective, with the ocean actually looking like an ocean. The game here takes up the whole screen as well. There's no UI bar and is it an altimeter in the top right? So when you're banking, and that's in the top right corner. However, as far as I could make out, I'm playing this quite a while, the number of attacking planes is kept much lower, with just only one or two coming at you. This is to enable them to be more detailed. I think there might have been 3 on screen at once, but one of them was off far in the distance. So I think it's done. They keep it down to keep the load on. So all it's doing is rotate, the horizon line, a bit of 3D effect, an altimeter, your plane, and 2 other planes. That keeps the speed up and keeps the thing in. So that's how they've done this. You can see what the sacrifices they've made to do what it has, to do what they've done. Control is slightly different as well. You have to tap the fire button to fire. You have to hold it down for a second to load a missile, which you can then fire when you lock on. It has all the levels that the UK version has. The canyon levels are not quite as good. They're a bit flatter and a bit boringer. But it also has some strange additional parts, which include you shooting down some giant spaceship after certain levels before landing on the road to refuel and rearm. Weird. The explosions when you destroy the enemies are much better in this, though. They're really quite cool, as is the one where you get hit and go down. It even has some speech at the end as well. It's an odd version, because although it moves faster and smoother, like I said, it achieves that by keeping what is on screen down to just you and at most a couple of planes and very little UI. When you fire missiles in this one, they just fire off, compared to the smoke trails that you get and winding into enemies in the UK version. So, it is what it is. It's the better version. There's no two ways around it, and probably a better game to play. But after trying both of these, the best version of Afterburner we have so far in the machine is Hellfire Attack. But that had its own issues. But, speed it up and put the music on, and that was way better. I enjoyed that more than this. Overall, the EU version isn't great. It's not great. I don't think it's the disaster that we've seen in things like Double Dragon and Guerrilla War. It's not brilliant. I think 17% is a bit harsh. I've seen worse arcade conversions. And the US version is probably the version to play if you really want to see Afterburner on the C64. But on the whole, just go play the arcade version these days, which is easy enough done. This was always a hiding to nothing as far as I was concerned. You were never going to get this running properly on the C64, and you got exactly what you expected. What did you think?
Yeah, principally the same deal. Obviously, we looked at Thunderblade and we said, you know what, we admired it for its ambition and at least it tried. There's a lot of arcade to fit in. Let's just be bullish about it. These should never have been converted to the C64 because the C64 is not going to give you, you're going to get a very rough approximation. Yeah. Okay, let's take that for what it is then. So how are these rough approximations? Well, like we said for Thunderblade, there's a lot crammed into the C64 version here. Of course, for everything you're throwing onto the screen, it takes up memory, which you don't have a lot of, and a processor speed, which you don't have a lot of. So, there's going to be compromises. I agree with you. I think they gave this a bit of an undue pasting when there's been games that deserved far more of a pasting than they didn't give it. I think they went into this with ridiculous expectations, and hence the reason it got 17%. I didn't go into this with those kind of expectations, having now played well over 1,000 games for this podcast, many of which have, dabbled with this kind of viewpoint on all sorts of different ways. So, no, Are they going to be able to recreate Afterburner on the C64? Absolutely not. Is this about as good as it's going to get in one way? Well, yes and no, because we've got this weird USA version. So I think it is a bit tragic to look at. And I think if you just took it at that, you'd look at it and go, ugh, God, big graphic, blocky mass things shuffling around, the screen sort of, this is a rip-off. This now, I don't like it. It's not very good. And it's, I'm taking this back to the shop. I'm not happy with this. This isn't, your expectations need to be set for where they're going to be realistic here. You're not dealing with Pac-Man. This is a massive multi-hardware monstrosity of an arcade with all the power of lots of hardware behind it. We saw a taste of that for Thunderblade. Well, this is the same sort of engine, isn't it, as you say? So if you take your expectations of the hard sell of what it's going to be like and look at it for what you get, well, there's better versions of this out there, like you say, that play better. And we've played through quite a few of these games in the time that are Afterburner-y and that we've enjoyed, and they've been a bit better than this in terms of its 3D styling and the way it has that kind of style. And there is a lot of big moving stuff on here. Okay. So the UK version, it is what it is. I don't think it deserves 17%. I think that's harsh because I think what they were given was an insurmountable thing to try and achieve. And they did the best they could on a 64K computer with 8 sprites and a little bit of hardware and a 1 megahertz processor. This is a version of Afterburner that you're going to get on that hardware. That's it. And they've done the best they can. The USA version, it's multi-loader, isn't it? So there's a bit more loading involved. It's obviously on disc-based, which always advantages these USA games. It's obviously got that your own tell music, which is really nice. Lots of samples in there. The samples are taken straight off the Afterburner arcade. So it's got that nice sort of Sega-sounding arcade tune to it, which is great. It has got slightly better graphics. In fact, it's slightly better at everything. I thought it played faster. I had it in NTSC mode. Of course, NTSC mode games play faster anyway, because it's just, you've got, I guess, less lines on the screen. I don't know what the mechanics are behind it, but it plays slightly faster. And there is actually a reasonable game in there, albeit that I think it's really, whether it's got a little bit more, a few extra pixels around the edges, or there's a little bit of graphic tidying up, or however they've made the parameters work, you're still playing a very lo-fi budget of Afterburner, regardless of which version you play here. One's slightly faster with the music's a bit nicer, slightly better imagery, but there's a compromise with how much is on the screen. The other one's trying to do the opposite, trying to cram as much of the arcade in terms of its visual complexity on there, but obviously it's going to be a blocky 8-bit version of that because you don't have the kind of the Vic chip ain't no System X, however the Sega called that. So it's better in bits. Maybe they're the bits that count. Maybe they're not. I don't know. We would never have found out in the UK. I think the only reason I came across the USA version way back in the day, which, by the way, was the only version I'd played. I'd never played the UK version. I'd only ever played that US one. It's because I'd obviously got it on a crack. Yeah. And so I'd got the cracked version, and a lot of the times they did used to crack the NTSC ones to PAL, but of course they would be slower. So I remember thinking, this seems a lot faster than I remember it. But I don't know. Is it leagues apart from the UK one? I think some of its trimmings are nicer, but it's on a disc, and there's probably more of it on that disc. Is it a better game? I think they're both about as good as you're going to get for 64K trying to render the kind of hardware that it's trying to render. I think they were a bit cruel at 17%. Now, as far as my enjoyment of the game goes, I'm not struck on Afterburner. Like I said about Thunderblade, they never really did it for me in the arcades. I mean, they're a novelty value. They're all right, but I find them very repetitive and a bit boring and a bit meh, as far as I'm concerned, cabinet or not. So the arcades are okay, but the C64 versions, they are what they are. So no, I'm not going to be overly critical of people's hard efforts. And we've took a different stance. And this isn't the stance I'm taking for when there's arcade games that are clearly games that should have been converted well and weren't, like 1943, for example, or Karnov, or Double Dragon, or Guerrilla War, or any of those games where there's a clear, yes, they are advantaged in an arcade, but not so advantaged that you couldn't do them justice in some way or another. Whereas this, the odds were completely against them trying to create anything meaningful, and they had a go, and this is how it turned out. Well, it is what it is. I quite enjoyed my time playing it, I guess, for what I played, but I would never have enjoyed it that much anyway.
No. Just to say as well, I mean, the US one as well doesn't have, like I said, I think the US one is based on Afterburner because it doesn't have the speed. So it has no UI, so it's not having to contend with you being able to speed up and slow down as well, which obviously takes up more processor time because you've got to figure in the control system and do that. I was reminded that probably the best one of these, and whether they could have played the thing, was that old one we played back in '86 was Skyrunner. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember Skyrunner. Yeah,
that was really sort of quite impressive 3D, technically impressive 3D, flying into the screen, shooting stuff in a plane type thing. And I was just looking at it now, I was thinking, you know what, if they'd have just taken this angle, they could have maybe made, instead of
ground skimmer on the Skyrunner, skim the ground.
Yeah, so you start off in a plane, you start off in a sort of a plane thing, and then you sort of go to a Return of the Jedi bike thing.
Yeah.
And I was thinking because someone made this point where I think we were discussing Double Dragon on the Discord the other day, sort of thing, about saying like how like the NES, who people who usually converted these games to the NES, took a different slant, and because they did their own thing because they had to, and they made something that was to the strength of the machine. And you're thinking, if you could have done that for some of these C64 games, like we saw that Skyrunner did a decent 3D effect, shooting stuff, you are playing, you could have. That's to some degree, you could have said, you could have called it Afterburner Redux or something, but done it, I don't know. Trying to just replicate what's there, in the arcade is never, for these monsters, never a good idea.
I noted on Lemon that somebody put that the European version looked like it was a version based on the arcade cabinet, but the US version was more of an approximation of what a Master System version would look like. So it's like they converted the Master System version of Afterburner to the C64, right, which may explain why it looks the way it does, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. Afterburner is what it is. It was exactly what we expected, and no more, no less. We've got one more game. Let's get to that before we finish off for the week. And then, Graham, that's to you. Peter Packrat.
Peter Packrat, $1.99, 76%. This was published by Silverbird, copyright Atari, which is an odd thing, and I'll come to that. The developer was Software Creations. The conversion was by Michael Agar, musician, Tim Follin. Hey, it's Tim Follin. Hey, it's Follin. Timmy, little Tim Follin. John Follin's lad. It probably isn't.
Bobby and Joan Follins.
I knew you were going to say Bobby then.
Bobby Follin.
So I don't know. Peter Packrat. So this is the game. Peter Packrat is a cute little rodent who lives in a junkyard. He likes nothing more than picking up all the nice things people don't mean to throw away. He runs around his neighborhood collecting all the trash treasures he can lay his hands on and carries them back to his nest where he can look at them in peace. However, the junkyard isn't such a safe place and is patrolled by Riff Rat, the leader of the Rats of Flatbush, his minions and various other villains including Scrapper the junkyard dog, Sticky the spider, Night Owl, Slugger the bat, Big Al the alligator, Diamond Jim the snake, and Claude the cat. All these guys are very nasty pieces of work. Boo hiss. When Peter's collected everything from the junkyard, he hunts the sewer, and then he has all the treasures from there. Once he's got all the treasure from there, he can look in the tree. This is just off the instructions. By the time he has searched there, someone is sure to have dumped something wonderful back there. So where he started. So Peter Packrat, get collecting. It's a bit of an odd thing. This is based on an old arcade game. This
it is. It really is.
So this is based on a 1985 Atari arcade game. Really strange. The arcade. Do you know, from 1985 game, the main processor of the arcade is a 68010. So it's a 68,000 processor. So it's basically the same processor as an Amiga.
Really?
16-bit processor in 1985. Odd, isn't it, that? It's got a 6502 just controlling the main sound. Shares the 8-bit I/O with its 68010, and its FM sounds in 1985 are generated by a YM2151. In hardware terms, this arcade really sits in an unusual place in 1985. So it's really weird.
Is that not what they use for the Paperboy and stuff? Is it very similar? Is it?
I'm not 100% sure, but 68010 processors in 1985 would have been quite expensive, I'd have thought. So I didn't even know this was an arcade. And having looked at the arcade on YouTube, it looks like an Amiga game. Looks like it does look like one.
Yeah.
It's really strange. Anyway, so the game plays out over a kind of medium res junkyard, which isn't terrible. It's just a bit oddly coloured. So light blues, greys and white. All right, is what it is. On the screen is your sprite, which, while oddly hard to see at times, is at least rat-shaped, and it moves kind of like that. It moves okay with the joystick, and you can run, jump, and move around, not unlike Monty Mole, one might say. Or maybe even Disney's, what was that Disney one with the rats in the underground? What was that one?
Oh, don't know.
We didn't like it, but that one, not unlike that.
Yeah.
So you move, slide, jump around the junkyard over the obstacles, looking for things to collect, which will flash. It's a good job to do flash, actually, because I found them quite difficult to see in amongst the busyness of the medium res levels we were on. You collect them, and then you take them back to your nest. You do this for all of the ones on that level, and then you'll get to the next level, of which is a slightly different design. There's obviously those things that I've already mentioned trying to stop you. So obviously the rats and the bugs and all the different hazards, as well as the actual hazards of the environment itself, which is things that you fall off. You don't die if you fall off things, but it's obviously just inconveniences you in terms of putting you in more peril with other enemies and things like that. So it's quite tricky. But it is fast-paced. It's on kind of, I wouldn't say it's one screen because it sort of moves around, but it's one place. one level. But the pace is fast and quite leisurely, I suppose, in its own way. And there's lots of things to do and move around, and it's a space you can navigate. And it's kind of arcade sentimentality at that point. It's a bit of an odd thing, I guess, this. It's not bad for its budget, though. It's only $1.99. It plays okay. It's just a bit weird. It's kind of a weird, old-fashioned arcade sort of tone to it, which is not something you sort of expect. It feels a bit odd. Even the arcade is a bit odd in that respect. The screen scrolls quite well. There's a couple of little glitches maybe here, not game breaking or anything, but it's in terms of a conversion of an arcade, it's actually a pretty good conversion.
Yeah. Kind
of looks the part. The music from Tim Follin is a very good facsimile of the arcade. Some really good sounds, very heavy on samples at a certain point, which, I mean, I have to say, I like the arcade sort of sound tonality of it. It's kind of a whistling sort of vibe to it, which is really well picked up by Tim Follin's music. But the over drumminess of the heavy samples kind of detracts from a little bit, in the opening thing. But it is what it is. It's $1.99, and the music is different, but it is very like the arcade. This looks and feels like the arcade, and as an arcade game conversion, it's okay, and the game's okay. Maybe a little on the dreary side, maybe a little bit repetitive.
The background's completely black in it, and compared to the arcade, it's a bit more colourful.
Yeah, I'd expect that, though, on a 68,000 processor.
Well, the weird thing is, just to come back to that, that's Atari System 1, so that was their standard, and it's the same as it was used for Marble Madness, Roadrunner, Indiana Jones, Road Blasters.
Explains why the Amiga versions look like they do then, because it's kind of an Amiga, really, or, and probably at this point, Trammell would have been in charge of Atari or something crazy, so who knows what they were doing. So, it is what it is. I know we've been saying that a lot for this episode. This is £2 worth of arcade conversion, and it ain't that bad. The music's quite good. It plays all right for what it is. You can run around, pick stuff up in that kind of frantic arcadey kind of way, and it plays kind of frantic. It's not like it's super difficult to get into. Maybe, like I said, it's going to be, it's an arcade of that type where it's just the same thing over and over again with more difficulty ramped up by more difficulty things on the screen. Everything that's going to make it more difficult will appear on the screen and make it harder, and all of that. But the reading of the game screen, you're not navigating around the space, jumping up and down. You're not punished for doing things like falling off a step or tripping over a pixel or anything that we've seen in other games. You can just get around and try and navigate and pick things up. And a game that's about picking things up, you can do that. Sometimes the graphics blend in a little bit and they're hard to see, but just take it for what it is. It's £2 worth of arcade conversion, and it ain't that bad. Now, would it kill an afternoon? I reckon you'd probably, for £2, you wouldn't be, you'd play this and you might not go back to it that often, but you're not going to think of it as the worst thing that's happened to you. Now, considering you could get this and Zamzara both for under £5, with other games in this list for this episode at £15 a go, this is amazing value for money, and it's pretty damn good. And it just shows you, really, take a long, hard look at yourselves, people making the games at this time and charging the kind of top whack prices you're charging. Take a look at Zamzara. Take a look at Peter Pack Rat. They've got it where it counts. And in terms of Zamzara, they are giving you a proper run for your money. It annoyed me seeing that and thinking, you know what? There are people out there that probably did spend £10 on Afterburner. And okay, maybe their expectations weren't set correctly. But no, they got Better Dead Than Alien or Spitting Image or Jordan versus Bird at £15. These games are expensive in this episode. These two budget games, I've just shown them and given them sort of holding a light up to them going, look how good we are, look how much we're charging. Perhaps that's more proportionate, really. So, for some of these epic proportional nightmares that we've played for £10 and beyond, this is a great idea that's delivered simply. It looks like the arcade to me, sounds like the arcade to me, plays like the arcade to me, and for £2, that's good money. That's good. That's good eating, that is. I'd go for that. I liked it. What's not to like about it? It's dead simple. Okay, it's good. What about you?
Yeah. I put simple platform style, collect 'em up arcade conversion. I like the fact that what would kill you in most of these types of games, like falling more than 2 pixels, falling into water, webs, etc., don't.
Yep.
So that's quite nice. I did find some of the level design is a bit more annoying than it needs to be, with awkward jumps and gaps to try and fit into, which more often than not left my mouse. I left my mouse doing something reminiscent of an Irish jig for bouncing off elsewhere into the level. That it had to come about them, but it's okay. It's fine. It's okay. I guess it's like we said about Gap Plus. It's interesting to see these kind of old arcade conversions sort of being picked up and released at budget levels. I don't know where this come from again, how this has been, who's got hold of this. Who is it did this? Silverbird, yeah. Yeah, God only knows where this sort of old Atari sort of one came from. So it's always nice to see an arcade conversion come out at budget price. I think they, if they wanted to, this could have been a full Firebird release, but they've gone for the more sensible option. I think that does its good. It does get a bit dull because it is the same thing, just sort of running around and stuff, and it is what it is. And that in the arcade sort of thing, you'd probably be killed before you got bored. When it's when it's something you're playing at home, that sort of repetitiveness becomes apparent more obvious sort of thing after 20-30 minutes worth of play. But but it's okay. It's no great shakes, but it's fine. It's a decent conversion of a decently weird little unknown arcade game. Yeah, I quite enjoyed it for what it was.
I mean, the people that did this, Software Creations, they did Bubble Bobble, Bionic Commando. They'll later do Gauntlet 3. They're also responsible for Lead Storm. So
right. They know the stuff.
So yeah, they do know the stuff, and obviously they're doing those for different times and different publishers. But these are not slouches. They knew what they were doing. So
yeah,
now there are those racket guys. So
yeah, exactly. There we go, Peter Packrat. And that's it. So a lot of games. What did we look at this week? Batman, the Caped Crusader, which was okay. I think we're okay. We just wanted a bit more Batman.
Just a bit more Batman fighty, Batman-y stuff.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Jordan versus Bird, which did not look the part. And
it was a complete lie because it is not Jordan fighting a giant bird, which it should have been.
It's not. Could have been the Country Jordan versus Mothra.
Yes,
or
exactly,
Gamora.
But it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
For 50 quid, it bloody well should have been.
Should have been. Spitting Image, which not great. Better Dead Than Alien, which was Spitting Image did miss the point. Better Dead Than Alien, which was
budget game that never was.
Yes, but should have been £2. Zamzara, best budget game you're going to buy for a while. Question of Sport, which it simply isn't. Again, missing the point. Circus Games, horrific. Afterburner, what were you expecting?
Yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is. And finally, Peter Packrat, which is a nice little surprise at the end. Decent little game from a decent little arcade game. That's it. Next week, what have we got coming up? We carry on with that. We carry on with March. We've got one for you here, Graham. Zach McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders.
Excellent. Look forward to playing that again.
And then we've got Pasteman Pat. No idea about that one. Ghost Hunters, which isn't that one we thought we'd play before. It's different. SDI. Okay. I think that's a shoot-up. Dragon Ninja.
Okay.
It's quite a decent review, so I'm quite looking to see that. Could be quite interesting. Power Play Hockey.
EA game, that, isn't it?
Probably 15 quid. Superhero we'll be looking at.
Okay.
Well, that is Superman the Man of Steel. And finally, another Superman, Jockey Wilson's Darts Challenge.
Okay.
So we've got coming up next week. It's all going on. Plus, obviously, UK albums. That's it for this week. I think this has been quite a long episode. I won't stay too long. If you want to support us, you can do. We have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Zapped to the Past. It's £1 for cheap one, or for £4.50. £1 is great. We really appreciate it. £4.50 if you want to give us the full fat and come join the Discord and everything like that. That would be cool. Or send us a Ko-fi on ko-fi.com/Zapped to the Past. I think it is. We haven't done one of these long episodes in a while, have we? This amount of games.
No, it's been a while. Yeah, we can tell. But this, it's just one of those things when we've got this many games, and
we need to get through.
We're trying to give them all equal, footing as well, which is something that we've done it so far in all 115 episodes. We're not going to stop now.
No, we're not. In fact, we've got more. We've got better at it as we're done along. Yeah, that's it. I don't think I've got anything more to add. Have you got anything you wish to add, Raddings?
No. I would just suggest, if I was going to suggest 2 games to play out of this particular episode, go and give Batman a whirl because the graphics are nice, and definitely go play Zamzara because it's really good.
Yeah, I think Batman's worth a look, and Zamzara definitely. That'd be my two as well. Maybe Peter Packrat as well if you want a bit of a quick, cheap
absolutely.
sort of arcade thrill. Like I said, we'll be back next week then. So as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Raddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past, and we will see you again as we carry on into March next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.